Trustee Cavaney, will you please report to the boardroom?
She's lost it, what she was doing. Sure, I'd bring candy for the VFW and I'm not taking it home.
I gotta change my password again, I guess. Well, we can start with 3 trustees, right?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Please. Oh, look, there she is. At this time, I will call to order the regularly scheduled committee meeting for the Village of Midlothian, Wednesday, November 6th, 2019, at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kamey?
Here.
Trustee Crowley? Trustee Gillis?
Here,
Trustee Ivan?
Here.
Trustee Killelea? Trustee Kreis?
Here.
Mayor LaRue?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we've got a couple special guests here tonight. First up, we have Stan Urban here from Pro Champs. Going to talk about the Pet Champs presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think before we get into what's on the agenda regarding Pet Champs, just to give you an overview, if you're not aware of the fact, in the month of September, Midlothian went live with Pro Champs with their foreclosure and vacancy program. For the first month, we registered 50 and collected 50 registrations. For the month of October, we collected 17. That being said, for the month of September, the Village of Midlothian had received a check for $10,000. That being said, the money's nice, and I'm sure it's already spent like in most communities. What's more important is that you have access to the names, addresses, phone numbers, and emails to every bank that initiated a foreclosure or has a vacant property in this town. That's the important part, so that code enforcement doesn't have to waste hours trying to figure out where to send the tickets to. That being said, when I first made my presentation, I don't remember when, but several months ago, we did talk about foreclosures, vacancies, and we talked about that we do pet registrations. I appreciate you entertaining the idea of coming back and looking at the possibility of adopting a pet registration ordinance and a partnership with Pro Champs. I understand that you already have, like most communities, a pet registration program. Not being offensive, just like any other community, it is not an aggressive program. You're hoping that everybody comes in, pays their fee, and gets pegged and goes home. We think there's more to it than that, especially in today's world. I heard about this nice young lady here talking about one of her neighbors having a yelping dog, and the only reason she knows they moved out, the dog stopped yelping. That's a minor issue. I'm sure the police chief has had several calls where there were vicious dogs. You need to know who and where owns dogs. In this community, according to the American Veterans Association, you currently have in excess of 3,000 dogs in this town. You have in excess of 3,000 cats in this town. I'd be willing to bet you didn't register 2% of those 6,000 pets. And then people are going to say, well, what makes you guys so good at registration? We are no better than you folks are, except in the ordinance that we would ask you to adopt, it will clearly state that the surrounding veteran clinics, veterinary clinics, not veterans, excuse me, I'm thinking of Veterans Day, veterinary clinics must supply Pet Champs with any information, meaning name, address, phone number, to any pet owner that they are servicing that pet that is registered in the Village of Midlothian. It's by ordinance, it is by law. They have in other communities where we have adopted this, such as Harvey, Illinois, one of your neighbors. In Florida, we have Broward County where we have registered, believe it or not, over 40,000 pets in Broward County. Because of the fact that it is a pain for the vets to have to do that. but we realize that. So what we do is we give them a portion of what we retain as a commission to do this. It also helps the county because everyone should know that anyone that owns a dog in the Cook County must have rabies shots and register with the county. I'd be willing to bet 50% in every town does not do that. So we're here to enforce what should have been enforced, just like we enforced the foreclosure registration. We proved that we can do that. We know we can do the pet ownership. We don't brag and say we're going to get 85% like we do in foreclosure. We guarantee at least 70% adoption. So if you have 3,000, we're looking at least 2,000 pets that we're going to register within a 12-month period. The other reason is, and I did ask the deputy clerk to pass out a PowerPoint presentation that I believe she's going to pull up right now. People will want to register. You should have gotten hard copies if you don't have it. Basically, the reason they want to register, we have an interactive web page. Meaning, yes, you register online. You give us your dog's name, the type of animal it is, color, all that kind of good stuff. You post a picture online of your animal, and if by chance little Fido gets away on a Friday night, you don't have to call the police chief and say, "Where's my dog?" You press 311 on your computer, and an alert goes out to every vet in the area and to everyone that is registered with Pet Champs that there's this missing Fido out on the loose. So you've got literally thousands of people out there looking for Fido. It's very interactive in the fact that we have a 24-hour-a-day blog where somebody's going to wake up one day and say, "Fido has got fleas, what do?" We are communicating back and forth. So it's an interactive, it's not just give me dollars and I get a tag and I get to go home. There's actually things that the residents are able to do online to protect and take care of their pets. With that being said, I would entertain any types of questions anyone might have.
What are your fees?
Paying $5. We recommend, like most communities, a minimum of $10 charge. You're going to get $5, we get $5. I have a couple of communities that are charging $35. I have some communities that are charging $6. It's up to you as to what you want to do with it.
Stan, have you got any pushback from customers of veterinarians who found out about the requirement? How does that play out?
So far, we have not had any pushback because veterinarians are all about taking care of their animals, and they see this as a plus that they can help the community with the dogs and cats.
It's been legally vetted?
Pardon?
It's been legally vetted with the courts,
No one has
or
challenged it at all.
how many communities?
Right now, in Florida, we have 5, including Broward County, and Illinois, we have 3. And New York, I believe there's 2, New Jersey, there's 2 or 3. It's relatively new. I'm not going to say that we are perfect at it yet, but we are better than anything that's being done in-house.
So how far, when you say area vets, how far is your reach?
25 miles radius from the center.
From, okay.
So how would the dog kids further
We mail them to them,
email?
yes.
So you do all the processing of the
We
tags?
do everything. Again, just like with the registration, staff will tell you that if somebody came in here to register a foreclosed property, they deny it. They say, "Here's where you go online, punch it in and do it." We want to take all the burden off of the village, whether it's for foreclosures, vacancies, or for pet registrations.
So that $5 that you make is gonna cover that mailing of the tag to, you're gonna mail my Sherman's tag to me?
Special, COD. Yes, we do.
Be careful what you ask for, you might end up with them.
I'm sure.
He might get Sherman back and see.
When you do the bulk mailings that we do not pay 48 cents.
Right, right.
So it is very inexpensive to mail the tag out.
My dog would be bulk mail.
102, both of them, right? 2 bulks, 160, 170 pounds?
189.
Since you brought up that you own a pet, would you not want to have the option of actually interacting with professional people online about your dog, where it's at, what it's doing, and be bragging about your little Fido online. Does
Oh,
that-
absolutely, absolutely. And so would you, right?
I mean,
They're part of the
Midlothian
family.
loves its pets.
when I was a trustee in Downers Grove, I inherited tree huggers. Everything was a tree hugger. If you were going to do remodeling in your bathroom, you had to put a cage around the tree in the parkway because somebody might damage the tree. I have found now, since I've been talking to people about pet champs, dog owners are dog huggers also.
Yeah.
They just want whatever they can get for their dog, and I don't know how to do this. Do you know how to change a page? But it's all interactive on there. That it shows, I mean, it's not there.
We don't,
We
they don't
have
have
it.
it on their computers.
We have
Oh,
it on
you
our
have it up there. Oh, excuse me, you guys are like Peoria. You know, in Peoria, there's no yay, nay. They vote electronically. The mayor says, it passed. No one knows how anybody voted.
We're transparent here.
I was there last night, and I was like, whoa, that's interesting. As you scroll through this, you will see that it is very interactive. It's very appealing. It's not just give me your money and go home. Are there going to be the guys that had, the people that own the pit bulls for fighting, register? Probably not. But we're going to go after them as much as we can.
Is there an option for a multi-year registration in other towns?
That would be in your ordinance. We require at least 1 year. If you want to do, Broward County does a 1 year for X amount of dollars. And then if you want to do a 2 year, you get a little bit of a discount. It also, we suggest that if you're going to do a $10 fee, we use that, that should be for neutered pets. Unneutered pets should be considerably more. The idea is that pets should be neutered so that they don't just populate the world, especially the cats with feline cats, feral cats, I mean.
So you do have some municipalities that had multi-year
Yes.
licensing?
Does anybody know how much the village charges for a pet license now?
$6.
$6.
Oh, we charge 6? Okay.
Well, all right, I got a question about feral cats. Illinois law allows feral cats in the state. And, they have, some of the organizations that deal with feral cats take them to the vets to get.
Triple R.
Yeah, like Triple R, exactly. To get neutered and such. So what do you do in situations like that? Because obviously the feral cat is not owned by anybody.
And I don't mean to push the buck back on you, it's your ordinance. You write it the way you want it, we just enforce it. If you want us to register feral cats, we will do our best to register feral cats. If you want to eliminate feral cats, we eliminate feral cats. It's literally your ordinance. We presented what we consider a best practice ordinance to your attorney with the agreement. You can redline it just like you did with the foreclosure ordinance. And hopefully it won't take 8 months to get it through this time.
I think it would be hard to register feral cats.
It's not going to be as easy as, your numbers are not going to be as easy as they are for foreclosures. It's easy with just homework to identify a foreclosed property. To track down the people that are not going to want to register for whatever reasons, they just don't believe in dog licensing, it's going to be difficult to get them. That's where we rely on the vets to give us the money. Now, we can go after them, and once we get their information, we will pursue them to get registered. Ultimately, you'll get a report, not the first month, probably the third or fourth month, that says, we know that this family in this house owns 3 dogs, and they have refused to follow the ordinance. With an ordinance, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Attorney, you can file a judgment against that house and that property and that person for not registering. That's up to you to whether you want to do it or not.
So for the board's information, since obviously this is going to be a dramatic change in the numbers and the response of the residents, they're going from several hundred to maybe several thousand. What are they told when you get information from the vet saying a Midlothian resident has an unregistered pet?
We notify them by postcard first or email if we are able to get an email, supplying them with a copy of the ordinance that says, here's what has been passed in Midlothian. Here's where you can log on and do your registration. We are very easygoing to begin with. After 45 days, if they don't comply, we then pick up a phone. If we have the phone number, we start calling. And we continue with the emails and the postcards until hopefully we get their attention.
I just want to bring up one thing. I think however this is communicated by pro champs to the resident, what we'll have to include is this ordinance is really nothing new. We have an ordinance in place right now that says, and it would need to be communicated to the residents. We just are using a new system to register pets, but we would have to let the residents know. This isn't new.
Nothing new.
It's nothing new. We've had an ordinance in place that you need to register your
When we
pets.
signed up with foreclosures, we submitted a letter that we were going to send, I believe, to you, that he authorized. That looks good. It was very user-friendly. It was nothing that we're, Nazis coming after you. It was, we're here to just help protect you with these, vacant properties and foreclosures. The same thing would apply with this. We
Okay.
would prepare a letter, and it would be approved by staff or the council before it goes out.
Treasurer Britton, you had something to say? Comment, question?
I did have just a quick question. We currently require that our resident have a rabies number, and so, and how does that work?
We would do the same thing. It's actually in the platform. When they register, they have to put in the rabies tag number. We verify it with the county to make sure it's legitimate. If it's past due, we let them know it's past due. The other thing that we do that you probably do now, once you get sold dog tag, you should be, and if you're not, shame on you, be notifying the county that you registered the dog and here's the rabies information.
Are we required to do that?
You're not required, it would be a service that you're performing. It's required by the county ordinance that every pet in the county have rabies and that the number be sent in. Whether it's sent in by the municipality or it's sent in by the pet owner.
Do vets send it in?
Not unless they're told to,
Okay.
because that's more work for them. We do that.
Do you register rabbits?
Are you talking to the mayor from Glenwood?
I'm talking to our treasurer,
Yeah.
Britton.
We will be happy to register. You supposedly have people that own 231 horses in this town.
What?
Not that the horses are here, but they own horses. You have people that own 400 birds in this town. We will register rattlesnakes if you want us to register them. Again, it's your ordinance.
I have a question. With regards to rental properties, we have several rental properties here in town, and we know that some of them have homes, single-family homes and the apartments. If they have pets, does our rental ordinance have a line in there that says that tenants have to abide by all the ordinances in the village, including the pet ordinance? So can we, obviously, we'd be going after tenants, residential tenants besides homeowners.
We're identifying the owners through the pet.
Okay.
That's how we're identifying.
The big thing too, it would identify people who have exceeded our ordinance on the amount of pets.
Right.
Number of pets.
Yes.
And there are some of them.
Really?
And the last question I think that I'm going to have is, when you don't get compliance, is the protocol to notify the village and to have the administration or the police department, who writes the ticket in other municipalities?
Of course. Just like we do with foreclosures, it may not have happened yet because you've only been on board 2 months. Eventually, a list will be sent, and I'm sorry, I forgot your first name already. Nick. Nick will get a list monthly, or he can pull it up on a daily basis, who has not complied. And then it's up to him whether he wants, not him, but whoever, to write the ticket or file a judgment.
Okay.
That's where, when I was talking about the information being important, it's at everyone's fingertips, it's just whether you use it or not.
Give us some time to debate it, and we'll get back to you. Trustee Crowley is firmly on board. She's not here, but she would say aye, or she would press Yes.
I've got hard copies of the best practice ordinance and agreement. I'll give them to Deputy Clerk, because she's next to me. If you need electronic versions, I'll be happy to send those. Feel free to redline those in any way, shape, or form. Just let us look at it before you would adopt anything so that we could say, this is unenforceable. I mean, I don't, we haven't had that problem, but we just want that out.
That's my job.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stan.
Thanks, Dave.
Oh, one last thing, you brought up rentals. We are sitting in the wings, waiting probably 6 to 8 months. We have been doing rental registrations as long as we have been doing foreclosure registrations. Your system that you have here, I don't like to use the word, is a little antiquated because of the fact that you do not stay on top of it. Not that staff is falling behind, but the way it's written, it's a very unusual ordinance. And I think once we prove ourselves some more with foreclosures and vacancies, I'd like the opportunity to come back and hopefully relieve the pressures off of Nick of doing rental registrations, and we'll be happy to do that also. And that we do just about in every one of my other communities that we have on board already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to move on to the winner of the Scarecrow Challenge?
Sure.
Okay. You don't want to do it next week at board meeting?
Well,
Whatever.
we can do it next week, too.
Okay.
I just wanted to announce it because we had that week off last week, and I didn't want to wait too much longer, so that's why I want to do it now. So, the winner of the Village Department Scarecrow Challenge is the Administration Water Department for H2O flow.
Yes.
So- Okay, is this not working up here? Can we not get our agenda up there?
It's up.
That's up there.
Okay, can we open the pictures and show the pictures? There's attachments.
Oh.
Shouldn't we be able to show the attachments?
Oh, your question.
It's just the agenda.
Yeah,
No, there's pictures.
Pictures 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, of course, I'm having some user error issues over here. I can't open the photo on my thing, on my tablet here. It says open in Drive. What does that mean?
I think everyone here except for Stan was at the rain gardens.
There might be people watching at home who want to see it.
I don't know how to open it.
How do we open this?
They're not openable because someone attached them as messages instead of PDF files.
Okay.
Can't open it.
Okay. That was kind
We
of-
cannot open them, sorry.
It was kind of a dud.
Wrong
Okay, well
attachment
then,
type.
I'm going to ask that next week,
Yes.
Maria, next week, can we put these on the agenda next week so that they're openable and everybody can see them? Thank you. Okay.
So
Well,
congratulations
I'd like
to the
to
administration part.
thank everybody who participated at the Fall Fest. We went through 50 pumpkins, 62 kindness rocks. Everybody made bird feeders to take home, or we did make some and we hung them on some of the trees in the park. We went through batches and batches of popcorn and candy and apple cider, and a good time was had by all. And of course, I'd like to thank the KMB team and Rita for also hosting the recycle event. How many pounds of
I'm gonna
textiles did you collect?
I'll report on that.
Okay. So anyways, so lots of textiles were donated that day as well. So I would like to thank everybody. And also I'd like to thank the village staff for participating, the community for participating, School District 143, and Bremen High School for participating, and Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. If it would please the board, can we please amend the agenda and move on to the discussion on the renewal quotes for the healthcare insurance so that Aldo here from Horton can answer any questions, so we can not keep him here till, well, not keep him here long, so. Is that okay?
Trustees, good evening.
Good evening.
how would you like to review this? Do you want to briefly review the mark on the spreadsheet that I think was passed on to you? Or would you prefer some basic highlights on how we ended up with the actual renewal and alternative proposal?
Highlights and renewal.
Highlights.
Basic highlights.
So, as everyone's aware, we are currently with Blue Cross Blue Shield, have been with them for quite a number of years. For some historical perspective, since 2014, our cumulative increase with Blue Cross Blue Shield over that time frame has been just over 13% cumulatively since 2014. When we benchmark the village against PricewaterhouseCoopers and their annual trend, we're actually looking really good. PricewaterhouseCoopers cumulatively has come in at 42%. So versus our 13.25%, we've been running extremely well because some of the changes that we've made, some of the adoptions with plans that we've adopted. So we've been running very well. This year, Blue Cross initially did come out with just over a 7% increase. That was their starting point. It's also important to note that this year, ACA has reintroduced the health insurance provider tax. So that was eliminated last year. It was reintroduced for this year's renewals effective 2020, which automatically increased our rates by 2.5%. So from a baseline perspective, as a result of the ACA tax, we were going to be 2.5% over our current rates. So with that said, once again, we started at just over 7%. We renegotiated that rate to 1.85% with competition that we received from United Healthcare. We went back. We requested some additional rate relief from Blue Cross Blue Shield. They gave us a $25,000 credit, which combined with our 1.85% decrement brought us to just over 0.25 over current rates, so relatively flat. We gave it one last go with Blue Cross Blue Shield and said, United Healthcare is very competitive. What else can you do? Can underwriting sharpen their pencil a little bit more as a result of the longevity that the village has had with you and as a result of the relationship with Horton? In the end, our renewal is 2.08% under our current rates. So it's roughly a savings of $30,000. Now, United Healthcare, we can't be remiss in not acknowledging the proposal that we did receive from United Healthcare. Their final underwritten rate is providing us roughly a $60,000 savings compared to current. So they're roughly 7% below our current rates and have also provided a renewal rate cap of just under 8% for the second year. So what the rate cap essentially means is that regardless of how our plan works or operates next year, whether we have twice as many large claimants next year, whether our members overutilize the plan, the most that United Healthcare can increase our rates the following year would be just under that 8% threshold. So again, they provided a very, very compelling proposal. We would be remiss not to acknowledge that proposal. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
So the issues we're getting is that United Healthcare is not available in all states. Is that correct?
So we do what's called a geo-access report with the zip codes that we have at hand. So because you use Employee Navigator for your Ben admin system, we pull reports from there. We look at zip codes. We provide those to United Healthcare and say, let us know how many providers are within a 5, 10, 15, 20-mile radius from a specific zip code. That would be this zip code. Again, based on the zip codes that we have 100% network access with United Healthcare using their Choice Plus plan, which is their largest PPO plan. We also looked at the Florida zip code, I believe it's 33387. There's also 13 participating hospitals within a 20-mile radius for that retiree that's in Florida. I acknowledge that we may not have zip codes for dependents for some of those retirees which may reside in other states.
Right.
We're happy to run another geo-access report or network access report to determine if there's sufficient network coverage for those individuals.
So the issue isn't, most of our retirees are already on AmWins,
Mhm.
so this isn't going to affect them.
Correct.
We're not really talking about that one retiree that lives in Florida.
Sure.
We're talking about future retirees.
Sure.
That will have to decide what states they can move to or not.
Correct.
They're limited on where they can move to if United Healthcare isn't in that state to supply them healthcare.
So United Healthcare is a national provider. They do have network access in all 50 states,
Okay.
the 48 continental, including Alaska and Hawaii. So there is access for everyone across the country. That's without a doubt. So they are a national provider, national access to providers.
But,
There is no but.
well,
There is no but. I will say that Blue Cross, because of their association, they're the brand name. They may have, United may have more access in certain states than some Blue Cross plans.
okay.
But it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. Will we see disruption in going from Blue Cross to United Healthcare from a physician perspective? Possibly. Will we see some disruption with prescription drugs? Possibly. It's going to be dependent on the specific medication that a member may be taking. But for the most part, we should be okay with coverage. We should be fine with coverage.
So the net savings from United Healthcare is what?
88,000?
88,000.
The final net savings.
I mean, I'm sorry, Blue Cross versus,
Sure. So United Healthcare, based on their 7.3% decrease from current rates, is $89,000 below current.
right,
Our final negotiated rate with Blue Cross came in at just over $25,000 below current. We could get another 1 point from Blue Cross Blue Shield, so they're doing some bundling this year, where if we add an additional line of coverage, specifically an accident and critical illness policy, they will give us an additional 1%, which is equal to roughly another $10,000, $12,000 in savings. And those savings would carry over into the next year, or as long as we stayed with Blue Cross.
But that,
There is a certain access number, isn't it 15%?
Correct, so there are minimum participation guidelines for the accident and critical illness. Think of those policies similar to what Aflac would offer. There's a minimum of 10, let me give you the exact number. So with the Blue Cross accident policy, they require a minimum of 10 lives. With a critical illness policy, 15% participation. Now, Blue Cross has indicated that they will honor the 1% discount even if we don't meet that minimum participation this year. They will, however, reevaluate that 1% decrement in the following year at renewal.
So I guess the only thing I have to say is that we're already getting pushback from the unions. The contracts do say that the village is allowed to change
Sure.
health providers. But it does say that a village has to speak with the unions, give them a complete synopsis of A and B,
Sure.
apples to apples, and that will take quite a bit of time and money in negotiation piece. So I don't see how we should, my opinion is that we should just stick with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Sure. And again, as your broker consultant, it's our responsibility to go to the market, shop in the marketplace for competitive proposals and present those to the board. We walk a fine line in obviously managing we have the fiduciary responsibility for the board, but also ensuring that we offer your employees the best possible benefit. So we will lead the charge as we're told to do so, once the board makes their decision.
And a question that I have to ask from my department, which is that as our health insurance broker and advisor, is it your opinion that the two plans are substantively similar?
They are comparable. They are comparable.
That's all.
There are some differences within the plan. There will always be differences within plans from one carrier to another, but they are comparable in nature.
One plan is not substantively better than the other.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
for United Healthcare, they guaranteed us for year 2 that our premiums would not go up more than that 7.9%. Does Blue Cross Blue Shield also give us some sort of guaranteed cap on our renewal for the
No.
following year after next year?
No, we asked the question. Once we get renewal rate caps or a multi-year rate guarantee from a competing carrier, we will go to the incumbent, ask them to sharpen their pencil, especially if they are the incumbent. They usually get last look. Blue Cross has indicated that they've provided us their very best possible proposal. Yes,
I mean,
I-
Well,
Go
and
on.
so, just something I think we need to consider, the board really needs to consider, and I know trustee Crowley we got an email from her this afternoon that she's looking to put something together, and I wish, I'd like to have that information before making a decision. And then Blue Cross is offering this one-time credit of $25,000. That's probably one time that goes away, so I think the board needs to consider that. Because what you said, Aldo, was the net difference now, and I haven't pulled out my calculator, between Blue Cross and United Healthcare is what?
we are in a delta of $60,000 currently.
60,000 is
Correct.
less on the United.
Approximately, correct. So that's our spread between United Healthcare's final proposal and Blue Cross's final
Does that include the
offering.
point?
I'm sorry?
Does that include the point, the Blue Cross?
That does not include the point. So we still have an additional point that we can leverage with Blue Cross Blue Shield, which gives us approximately $12,000, $13,000 in additional savings annually.
But I really think it's important for the board to look at this long-term, just because this is a one-year thing, but we've been trying to bring down our healthcare costs, and that's why we implemented some policies. So, I mean, I want to be fair to the employees, but we also have to remember that the taxpayers are paying for this, and unfortunately, my insurance changes every year.
If I may, just to give you some perspective of your renewals over the last 5 years. Plan year 2014, we received roughly a 5% increase. In 2015, 3.5%. We were flat for 2016. We were a quarter of a point under in 2017. Last year, we were dinged a little bit at 6%, over a 6% increase. That was largely attributed to some large claims that we had, in addition to some demographic shifts that we had within the overall membership population. But this year, things are trending back, and what we'll usually see with all of our groups is it's cyclical, like anything else. We'll have 3 or 4 good years, and we'll have one rough year, and then we'll have another 3 or 4 good years. So we have been trending very well with Blue Cross Blue Shield, but I can understand why the United Healthcare offering looks compelling as a result of the savings. I would have been more cautious with United Healthcare had they not provided us with the renewal rate cap. We don't want any carrier buying the business, so to speak. But given the fact that they did provide us a renewal rate cap, I can understand how that's making the decision a little bit harder for the board.
The village had been projecting a 10% increase in health insurance over the last 5 years, so that would have been a 50% increase. You're saying it was only a 13%.
13% cumulatively over the last 5, correct?
So that's a pretty big savings. But Don, you want to say something before I read the email? That Trustee Crowley reached out to the chief, who reached out to the police union to ask them the questions, and we got the response this evening. I could read it to the board.
Two quick questions, if we renew with Blue Cross in a month or 2 from now, this thing with the unions is resolved, we can drop Blue Cross and switch to UHC, but it might not be the exact same figure.
You are correct. So our contracts with Blue Cross Blue Shield are month-to-month contracts. They're not annual contracts. We can cancel coverage with them at any time in the year.
Okay.
United Healthcare, when we were looking at the change, because we're a December 1st effective date, one of the things that we thought of was, how is that change going to implement employees' deductibles and maximum out-of-pocket accumulators? So we would recommend, if you are going to looking for a change to United Healthcare, that we maybe consider that for January 1st, because everything resets on a calendar year basis. So those accumulators for deductibles and maximum out-of-pocket occur on a calendar year basis, which would make it, employees wouldn't see a negative impact in a change to a new carrier. United Healthcare has also agreed to hold their current rates, their final rates as proposed, for a 1/1 effective date. If we were looking to make a decision beyond that, we would have to go back to United Healthcare and renegotiate that rate.
Okay, so my other question is, which I've heard, is that, well, we can go with United Healthcare, and if they are terrible in the rate, we'll just go back to Blue Cross. What's your opinion of that?
So we can do that. However, Blue Cross normally reserves the right to rewrite us, depending on the time frame that has gone by.
People who insurance shop, what happens to them in the market?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
People who would shop for insurance like that, go back and forth, what happens to them in the market?
Individuals on the marketplace, I'm not a specialist in that area, so forgive me. The last time that I checked, they can only make elections once a calendar year.
Okay.
But you're not talking about individuals, you're
No,
talking about the
but
groups.
basically, from what I understand, is that insurance companies do not like you going back and forth. Your second time around, they're not going to be quite as nice. Now we're getting a little loyalty discount. Next time, there won't be a lot of loyalty discount. You guys can go.
There's relevance to your statement. Blue Cross did look at us and gave us that final decrement based on the longevity that we've had with them, along with the relationship that we have with them. So we nudged them a little bit more, and they came through.
So we're planning on sticking with Blue Cross until January 1st, and then, but now when would you, see, the big question is, we're going to have 2 insurance meetings? How's that going to work? Are you going to tell them about Blue Cross now, and then if things do get straightened out with the union, you're going to have another insurance meeting for that too?
So that's a very great point that you just made. So with health insurance and related ERISA laws, we are required to offer 2 open enrollments. So 1 open enrollment to employees every 12 months. So given that 12-month is coming up, we would have to do what's called a passive open enrollment, where employees would have to go in, and if they didn't want to make any changes to their existing enrollment, they wouldn't have to do anything at all. This is what we've done historically. If we go to our new carrier, United Healthcare effective 1/1, then we would recommend what's called an active enrollment, where everyone would have to go in and actually make an election on which plan they wanted to select.
So have you had any other clients switch from Blue Cross to either United Healthcare or Aetna or Humana?
We have.
You have? And can you share any, have there been, do you know, that you know of any issues?
So again, to my earlier point, there will be some
Well, I
disruption.
know there's gonna be some disruption, but
Minimal.
but have they then stayed with that new carrier?
Yeah, they have. Some have stayed for 1 year and gone back. Some have stayed a couple of years. Again, we have a very big block of business, so it's all over the place. If you're asking me about municipalities specifically within our municipal block of business, the majority really stay with the Blues. The majority stay with the Blues.
So the response from the union was that the union recognizes that the village retains the right to select a different insurance company carrier. However, the village is likely obligated to maintain the current hospitalization and medical insurance coverage and benefits and life insurance in substantially the same manner and net benefit level during the term of the agreement. In the event the village decides to invoke its contractual right, a process must be followed. The village must notify the union of their desire to negotiate terms of the policy. At that point, the union will request in writing substantive information related to the proposed policy. The initial information provided was not sufficient, and therefore the unions issued its answer. The union remains willing to have further dialogue and will meet with the village at the time and place most convenient for both parties. And I have heard quite a few times people say that their insurance changes all the time. These are people that are not in unions and they're not bound by union contracts.
Correct.
The village now has 4 unions, and we're obligated to stick with the context that we agreed to.
Understood.
That's all I have to say. Should we wait for further discussion, or?
I think we need to have discussion when trustee Crowley is here.
I'll put the motion to vote on the plan for next week.
Do we have to actually make a motion to postpone then? We didn't make a motion to bring it up yet, so we shouldn't have to make a motion to postpone.
Well, the motion is to dispose of the agenda item,
Okay.
so, yeah, it would be in order to
All right, well, then I'll make...
postpone it.
I'll make
Postpone it
the-
till next week.
Yeah, a motion to postpone the item to next week.
Both of the agenda items?
Yes, both.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Ivan?
Aye.
Trustee Kilby?
Aye.
Trustee Kami?
Aye.
Trustee Gillis?
Aye.
Trustee Kreis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Please
Thank you.
stop by
Thank you.
anytime and say hi.
I appreciate it. Thank you. If there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to our office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch.
Do you have somewhere to be? Should we move on to zoning, or? Well, if we gotta stay, you should have to stay, so.
It's next week. It's next week. Let the poor guy go home.
Okay. Can I please ask the board to, let's move on to trustee Cavney's business of zoning, so that Superintendent Weiner does not have to stay here any longer than he possibly has to. Yes, okay. Trustee Cavney, will you please take care of
Yes,
your
Mayor.
zoning business?
Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Weiner because he's the one who prepared the presentation.
Wow, look at us.
I brought candy if anybody wants some.
No popcorn?
Is it good candy?
Nobody nod off, all right?
Is it
Superintendent
like
Weiner, please take the floor.
chocolate?
Okay, on this.
Oh, that's not good candy.
Superintendent Weiner, please take the floor.
I know.
Where's my gavel? Okay.
Okay, on this, we discussed before zoning, so what I did is to bring everybody kind of up to, everybody on the same page. In front of you is a set of maps. This first map that you have on there, and there that says existing, that was the village, center of town, before any zoning was changed. This map from the comprehensive study that was done in around 2000. Okay, and that's what the village looked like beforehand, and I'm here primarily across what we're going to call our downtown district. What happened is after the comprehensive plan was done, the village went and said we're going to have a B2 shopping district or downtown area. This was the proposed change, to change the zoning and have a B2 zoning district. That's the next map that you have. So you can look and see what the zones are by looking at the map in front of you if you're wondering what the different colors are. But the cross-hatched area was supposed to be for the downtown zoning district. The next, and what happened is in 2006 it was, or so, the village took that downtown zoning district, which is your second page. You don't have this page in there.
No.
Okay, but on your second page, what was supposed to be the downtown zoning district turned into this. And this was based on having a downtown district, and you ended up having all your all your housing right here. That was where you live, which is Pulaski, Amherstburg, Pulaski, Waverly, 143rd. And a lot of these areas right around the center of town was changed to high-density housing, single-family housing. Businesses were changed to high-density housing, which I believe a lot of you are familiar with, because that was done back, I believe, in 2006. What happened is then, I got this list from,
Trustee Kreis?
Trustee Price, and what this was, you had discussions in 2013, where if you look up here, you'll see that you have special use permitted and blank space equals not permitted. So B1, B2, B3, if we go on the very first line, it says community residence large, it's permitted in B1, not permitted in B2, permitted in B3. Then your discussion was, we want to change that to special use in B1, not allowed in B2, not allowed in B3. And what happened here is you go through here, and you guys, the board, discussed all these different changes you want to make, and then you also wanted to add different things that were missed when you first came out with what was allowed in the zoning districts. Then, based on this table here, what I did was, with the help of Maria, we went here, and if you look up at the screen, this right here says zoning district on your sheet. That is the current zoning that you allow in the B1, B2, and B3 districts. The first line right here. That's what our current zoning is. That list that was from 2013 that you saw, that says right here, proposed zoning, right, district from 2013. So that way you have a side-by-side comparison of what you have now and what you discussed in 2013. Okay? So one of the things that needs to be addressed here, and would be a text amendment, is what you want to allow in different zoning districts. Currently, the problem is, if you go here, we have, on this page right here, we have motor vehicle uses, right? Well, what happens here is that motor vehicle service repair minor, motor vehicle service convenience, sales and leasing is not allowed in the B2 zoning district. We have Midlothian Cars, he wants to retain the property, he wants to sell the business to his family member. We have Cars 147, that's still in business, but if it happened, he wouldn't be allowed to, if he wanted to sell it, it wouldn't be a car dealer. The other issue we have is on the property that's on Hamlin and 147, the body shop that's there. He currently moved from, was it Allsip here? Allsip or whatever. I think he moved from Allsip or Crestwood and moved his whole operation here. However, the village cannot sign his zoning certificate allowing car sales there, and the zoning certificate is required by the Secretary of State because he's not allowed in that zoning district to have car sales, because in the B2 district, it is not permitted, even permitted by special use.
Well, it's not currently in a B2.
No.
No,
It's
in an
zoned R5.
It's in an R5, which is not allowed in an R5 either.
Right.
So the thing here is if you were to take this area, which I'll show you later, and go back to the original map, if you were to make that a B2 area, to make the whole 147th Street, the downtown area, one zoning district, he still wouldn't be allowed to be there. So a recommendation would be, you do not have to approve special uses, but you can't have the option. So for car sales, rentals, repairs, whatever, if you wanted to make that a special use in a B2 zoning district, that gives you control over car dealerships in the downtown area, and that's a text amendment. You would still have to go through the process of notification, hearing, the zoning board, the whole bit, but it's not like we have to change our maps per se, or anything, that's just changing this table. So what's allowed in which district.
That's an excellent recommendation.
So the next thing here is, you can go through this table, and any input you have would be appreciated, all right? So now, we go to the current zoning map, and we have some issues that would have to be taken care of text amendment that would need to be addressed. Those areas would be that you run into problems, is right here across from Village Hall. Right, so we have Pulaski, 147th, and then this is Waverly. What ends up happening here is, if you go back to the very first map I showed you, that was zoned single-family residential with commercial, as it was called, down Pulaski, 147th Street. Currently, people have come and wanted to sell their house over here, and the bank will not give somebody a loan because it's not zoned single-family residential. If something were to happen to the property, they can't rebuild. The next area you have is right here, which is Abbotsford. I think that's, what is that?
Millard.
Millard, okay. That right there is single-family residential, just like this area right here, but they're not zoned for the current lot sizes. You have R2, lot size, I believe, is 6,000 square feet, which is allowed. Other ones are 9,000, and also you have it zoned for high density or multifamily housing. So once again, people in that area also can't sell their house or refinance it because it's not zoned for that, and the village really can't give them a letter saying, yeah, whenever it burns down at any whatever future date, you can rebuild what's on there because it's not zoned for that. Then you have this area right here, okay, which is Hamlin, all right? If you look at the first map I showed you, you got the body shop on the very corner, then down a little bit, halfway through the triangle, you got that chemical company, all right? And then down at the very corner, before you get to Walsh Concrete, you have durable roofing. And then right where Rosner Park is, right here, that zoning district for that color requires 9,000 square foot lots. Those lots are like 7,000. So you need like a lot and a half to build a house. So once you have, you have a difficulty in that area when somebody wants to try to buy and sell a house. So first thing I need from the board is your input on what you want to do for special use or no special use in the B2 zoning district and any other text amendments you might want to make to that table, which is 6-1 in the zoning ordinance, which is what is allowed in those districts. That would be the first thing I would need. That'd be a text amendment, still be a hearing and all that, but then it would allow us to proceed in what are we going to allow in these different, when we change right across from Village Hall, are we going to allow businesses back over here, like you see on the very first map I showed you? And also, if you look at your packets, the very last sheet, which is a 8.5 by 11, I made it like that so that you could write around there, you know, if you want it, and just give me that. You know, that's the central district, and that's based on the village existing map that was not changed. It was the original map existing from the 1990 comprehensive plan.
So what kind of, do you want it, because you've already sent this out to us, right? And some of the trustees have responded?
Well, I got the one sheet from trustee Price, which I showed you, which is what what you had for the 2013 meeting, okay? And I got from you was just make the motor vehicle stuff special use for the B2 district. I haven't heard from anybody else now what they would like to see anywhere else, because that's just the text amendment to the table.
So I have, actually, I was going over the table today again. I have a couple comments or questions. Place of worship.
Okay.
Don't think we can say no.
That's correct.
Because of the RLUIPA law.
Well, here's what happens. Here's what happens in that situation there. Okay, most villages do not have a separate zoning for churches. Churches are put in by special use is what you currently have. All churches in all districts require special use. So that's what we currently have. That's what we're currently going through for the churches over on Lawndale. All right? The bottom line here is it's not that you can worry about our lupa and say anything about the zoning ordinance, you can or cannot allow it. Our zoning ordinance has a requirement for parking. So can you meet the parking requirement with the building you have? Can you meet, do you have a fire sprinkler system? Can you afford to do that? You have a fire alarm system. You have to meet our building ordinances. We're not saying you can't have a church there.
Right.
What we're saying is, you have to come up to today's standards, because you're the new owner, okay? Can you, as the church, come up to today's standards?
But you wouldn't need to do that through special use. They come in, they would come in and, I guess that,
Well,
they
would
wouldn't
come-
get a business license. A church wouldn't need, churches don't need a business
They
license.
can request a waiver for some issues.
Right, but see what you have here in your table, which I did right here, I called up, if you look on this sheet, Mary line here says place of worship, and what you have here in your table currently is special use in all districts. And then what you proposed in 2013 was special use only in B1, not allowed in B2 or B3.
We can't do that.
No, so
Well,
it needs to
that's
stay
what you-
special use.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's what you proposed at the time,
Yeah.
you wanted to make that change.
We
So-
learned the hard way in that one.
So whatever you have on the first three rows of what you allow, not allow, permitted, special use or blank, what do you like to do, what do you want to do? And that's just the churches, there's the whole list of other businesses there. So that's why I need your input as to what you would like to change, if anything remain the same, and then we can put that into a chart, and then we can do a text amendment. But right now, the primary thing is the downtown business district, what are you gonna do with the car dealerships? Because if you wanna change that one area that was R5, which is over from Hamlin down to about 148th, and then over that encompasses Durable, the chemical company and that. Right now, if the chemical company was to move or have a problem, they can't rebuild. If Durable Roofing had a problem, they can't rebuild.
I think special use is the way to go.
So if you want special use for that, then please mark up those sheets, whatever you want to do.
Will do.
And drop them off so I have them, and then we know which way we have to go for a text amendment.
The other thing that is, I was going over this again, like, we don't address, because I don't think we had them, the state hadn't passed the law yet, video gaming. So,
Well, video gaming on here that you have in here, okay, what is video gaming? What type of establishment?
Indoor
In indoor amusement, or since you
Indoor
require recreation, or because you require income to be
Alcohol.
60% of the income, is it retail goods? When I sell,
That's required to have a liquor license to get the gaming, so it could be considered tavern, bar.
Yeah.
There are several
Restaurant.
requirements that put you in a zoning category in order to have video
right,
games.
so you don't really have to have on this
Okay.
table gaming.
Can I ask why Welsh Concrete is OI on the new map?
Yeah, it's office industrial,
Okay.
okay? But if you look at the original map,
Yeah, it was
or
light industry.
it's light industry.
like-
So years ago, when they had zoning, they would have commercial, they might have like C1, 2, 3. They might have industrial, we have heavy industrial, light industrial, and the boundary,
Including taverns, excluding taverns.
taverns, right?
I
Whatever
love
you
those
have.
little maps.
So in this village here, you have office industrial, and then you have business B1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Well, my question is, what is your recommendation for that area along the railroad tracks on the east side of tracks? Basically, that you said was R5,
Oh,
multi-residential,
On the
and
east
has
side over
businesses,
here?
yeah.
Are you talking about Abbotsford,
Millard, that little
Or-
triangle?
Are you talking this, you talking?
or are you talking Hamlin, Carl?
That brown little,
Well,
you
there's
talking
two,
right
there's
here?
two brown
yeah,
triangles.
that one and the other one.
Then the other
Well,
triangle?
this one here, that brown area, I would recommend that you zone that back to R2.
Okay.
okay, because that's the size of the lots. What happens here with your lots and the plan that you had at the time, in your downtown district, you had a couple big hurdles to overcome. You know, one being lot size, so you had the complex consolidation of bins and property. The next thing you had was parking, which is still an issue in the town. And the third thing you had is that you had your downtown district bisected by railroad tracks, which effectively cut it in half.
So then, my recommendation would be the same as yours then, I agree that it should go to an R2.
Absolutely.
Right, so
Okay.
this
Both
area here
triangles?
is R2.
That one.
And this area over here, where the body shop and
Yeah, that looks a little more confusing.
that one there, if you look at the original map I sent you, or the small one that I gave you, if you notice, you'll see like a red and triangle, purple triangle.
I did.
Those are each little, that's each one. That's the body shop, the next one's the chemical company, and the other triangle is that area.
And those basically are all the properties along the railroad tracks, if I remember correctly, right?
Right, on the east side.
Yeah,
So if we rezone it back to what that was, which was,
It was originally R2, because that's the size of the lots. This area right here,
yes,
right, was originally R2, except for the commercial areas you had.
So
And
those-
that's on the very first map that you got.
so they were all zone commercial?
Or light industrial.
Light industrial.
So-
Which one do you
Retail,
recommend? Then? Should we
commercial,
go
and
with
light
light industrial or commercial?
We don't have either of
B2.
those.
We don't have either?
Oh, well, right now,
We
you
just
don't,
have B2,
right now, you don't have
B1, B2, B3.
light industrial.
Okay.
Okay, you just have industrial. So right here, the first thing on this map is, what do you put the body shop at? Okay, on this first triangle right here, what's the body shop? Well, if you want to maintain it where the whole 147th Street allotted area is B2, then make it B2, but then allow the body shop. Special
It
use.
has to be special use.
147 and
Yeah.
Midlothian, special use.
Okay.
See, then that way,
Then that would be my recommendation as well to you.
then you would have control.
Right, then we
over-
control it.
Because you can still say no to special use.
Right.
You don't have to agree.
Except churches. They just have to comply with our village building codes.
Right.
So then the other properties that are south of that, they would be zoned what? If we put
Well,
B2 as the first one and
B2, then the other two would be OI,
OI?
because it'd be office industrial,
Okay.
okay, versus a B whatever. all right?
So currently though, there
Chemical
are 5, right?
plant, on the maps right now, I think it is, it's a dark brown in it.
Yep.
Yeah, so the dark brown is R5.
Is R5, right?
Okay.
Now-
So the homes though that are next to those buildings, those are R5 too, so if they burn down or something like that, they could only go back to multiple residential, or can they go to single-family residential?
Now, R5 district, really, it just says that it's a village center multifamily residential to provide higher density residential development within the village. Okay? So it just says higher density. Define higher density. Does that mean townhomes,
Condos,
condos?
2 flats.
Yeah, multifamily.
So what was big at the time, or may know this or not, I don't know, but at the time, and is carried now after a bunch of pin consolidations and stuff, is if you look at Orland Park at 143rd and LaGrange, they took down Johnson Lumber, R.I. Beatty, and they put all those towns in. A lot of that stuff with commercial on the bottom and residences at the top is called podium-style construction. We don't have multi-use in our zoning ordinance.
Okay.
So they
So-
try to put the shops in the bottom, residents on top.
Should we change those R5 though to on a different R, is what I'm basically.
Right, so.
Should it be R2, like the other ones?
Recommendation, put it like R2, because that's the lot size.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about trying to have a larger lot size.
Okay. So then my recommendation would be to follow what we just discussed. I don't know if the rest of the board agrees with that we do the business in the R5s to R2s, and the other one as the, what was the term again that you used for the manufacturing area?
OI.
Open industrial.
OI.
That's what you got
Yeah.
currently.
Some of them will be OI.
Yeah.
The one
So
body shop will be
That would be my
B2.
reply to you on input to the back.
We also need to fix those.
So I don't know if the rest of the board agrees or not, but I think that would be a good way to go.
Okay, well, you got the sheets, think about the look through the whole list, is to try to iron it all out tonight, and then I can put together something for next time and say, this is kind of the consensus. Or email everybody, if you need any kind of maps, email.
I thought I gave you a
But-
consensus right there, man.
Also, pay attention, we need to also pay attention to those properties that are on the east side of the railroad tracks that are now like a light brown color, they're R3. Those used to be R2s, and now they're R3s.
Right.
So we need to put those back to R2s as well.
What's the
R3,
difference between R2 and R3, I'm sorry?
lot size.
Lot size.
Nobody's gonna buy 2 houses and knock them down and build a big, huge, giant mansion like they've done all up north. That's not gonna happen here.
Right, so R2, the lot size is 6,125 square feet is the minimum. And R3, the minimum lot size is 9,000 square feet plus 4,000 more square feet per unit.
I'm not saying that that would never happen, but there is a process in place for someone to buy up 2 pieces of property, combine the pins into one, and build whatever they want. But, you know, the problem is that people, like you were saying, they can't sell their house. And
Right,
I'm
they
not
can't
so-
sell their house.
It's not about selling a house, but a lot of people, because the interest rates are so, I don't know what decade year low this is, but I just heard today that they're as low as 3% now. People want to refinance, and they can't refinance. I think that's a bigger problem. That's a huge savings.
Exactly.
Every percent's
Exactly.
a few $100s a month.
Now,
Well, then my recommendation would be to change those, like you were saying, to fit the lot size.
Right, that's, and that was what was before the comprehensive plan, and really before 2006 or 7, when you adopted the downtown central business district, and you changed all that.
So with all these recommendations, that pretty much covers the east side of the tracks then, or my side of town, as they say.
What about the purple, where you were saying people can't get a mortgage?
Well,
that's B2.
Well,
The
that-
purple
that's
is business.
So right here, this right here, which is right across from Village Hall, right? That right there, all these houses along there are B2. The business is supposed to go in across the town, and then in the middle where the brown is supposed to be high-density housing.
Right.
And they're all single-family homes. So if you go back to the very first map you saw how Pulaski and 147th Street was commercial, right, business. And all those houses that are along Waverly and going west were all residential.
That would have never have worked. That this area here you're talking about, that would never have worked with commercial.
The idea was to
And the
move
townhouses.
the village hall, make this
Oh,
all
yeah, right,
business.
yeah, that's true.
So at the time,
It never would have worked.
at the time, this was a pretty ambitious plan,
Very good.
you know, that you came out with. However, you had to overcome the difficulties of pin consolidation, getting the lots, eminent domain if one person didn't want to move.
That was 12 years ago, things were different, you know.
Right, so. that's-
Ridership was up on the train, now it's way down. It's been declining for 5 years now.
Right. So on here, I gave you the maps so you can compare how it was, what the comprehensive study did, what the board voted on in 2006 or 7, was the map where we know where it's bordered by Pulaski, Waverly, and 143rd was all changed, right? And then you changed that back in 2016 or 17, whatever it was, all right?
We'll get you our,
I'm looking
I see every day.
Can I ask a question? If you look along Waverly on the west side of the railroad tracks, along the OI, the strip of OI, you see one lot in there that's still zoned residential.
Okay, so.
Was that a mistake? I mean,
So to address
Where is
that.
look along the blue, Karen, the blue that runs on an
Radiant's
angle.
old house?
That was a miss.
You'll see one little lot right in the smack in the middle of it that's still yellow. It didn't
Okay.
get picked up.
Oh, I
So-
see it.
So if you look here, you got one brown lot up here, you got another brown lot, you got another brown lot, right?
Oh,
You're
yep.
missing the park over here somewhere.
And then there's 2 on Springfield behind Right Way.
Right, so you're missing lots. So what happened here is going through your ordinances, when you did all the PIN numbers in that, you missed the line. Okay, so in this one case, the PIN number is 2811-108-028, and then you went to 2811-108-030. But where's 029? It's the one that you missed. Okay, so it's just a scrivener's error because you have in here, you know, in that area there, you have 300-400 houses, and you missed one.
And that can be redone.
As a Scrivener's error?
It's
It's
scrivener's error.
not considered spot zone.
So we don't have to worry about trying to have clearing and zoning and everything else.
Okay.
So right now, researching that, there's one over by the Midlothian Country Club, that's a standalone R1 and an R2 zone, just one lot. And then you got these couple along here, and you have these eyeballs, I call them, for lack of a better term. Even here, this lot right here,
Yeah.
they did the front lot, they did the back lot. So they did the front, so they did the lot that's got 2 pins, but 1 address. Because their lot is double deep, I'll call it, and it's 2 separate pins. They never consolidated the pins, so they got 2 tax bills for the pin in the back, the pin in the front. The village only did the pin in the front with that address, and missed the pin in the back.
Can I ask one last question? I recall that when we first started discussing this zoning, Jerry had made me aware that there was an empty lot in this area up here towards the expressway, that it's a residential lot and somebody had donated it to the Park District, but I don't believe the Park District has built it out as anything, it
No.
just sits as a
Still
vacant lot.
Open land, right.
So should it be zoned as open land? I mean, what if the Park District decides that they don't want to build a park there, they want to sell it to somebody, they want to just sell it and get it off their books, and somebody comes in and they want to build a house?
The village does not.
Should we
have-
leave it?
The village does not have to change the lots. Okay, it's
Okay.
the same way over here on the current zoning map, where you have, like here, where you have the park. The park here, right? And we just had National Night Out, it's on B2. If somebody wants to come in and build something there, you already got it zoned. Or do you want to make it green space and not zone?
I think you want to leave it B2, because if you got a commercial developer that wants to come in,
Right.
and you
We'll
can...
move the gazebo somewhere else.
Exactly, I mean, if you can start generating property tax and create jobs and sales tax, that's obviously what you want to do.
Right.
Right.
So then, at some point down the road, if the park, so if we leave the Park District residential lot as is, and if some point down the road they want to build it out as a park, then do they have to come and ask for a special use, or since they own it, can they just build it out as a park?
No, what all you would have to do is change it to, you have to go on the map and change it to open space.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Shipshewana Park right now. That's the family that donated their last name. That's what they refer.
Shipshewana?
Shipshewana, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean, because
anyway-
right now, it's just empty.
Right.
Right,
Just
so-
grass.
So that, when this was done back in '07, '06, whatever year it was, what happened is they just went down the list and just wrote down all the pin numbers. They didn't take out those 3 pins, I think, that make up that part. Okay, so,
I think that was a good plan with the B2 in the downtown. I mean, I don't think anyone here has a problem with it. Maybe change the special use for the car things, but
That would make sense.
the rest of it was ambitious.
ambitious.
I don't have any problem with it. I mean, I don't think anyone has any problem with the rest of the B2 stuff.
Sober chemical and things like that, you can make it so they can sell it, but it still has to be special use.
Okay?
Anybody have any questions for me?
Seeing as there's no further business coming before the board, I'm done.
Okay,
I got no.
this is,
We still got the zoning?
I'm just saying, this is the third time we brought this issue up for discussion, so now we need to move forward and we need to act on it. So I would ask everybody if they could, in the next 2 weeks, if they could please look at this chart, mark it up with their recommendations, and please give it back to Nick, because then the next thing we're gonna do is, Nick and I will sit down and mash through it all, and we'll take everyone's comments into consideration, and we will deliver a document for final review and discussion and then approval, okay?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, Clerk Bosco just brought it up to me again. There's been some advertisement on Facebook and I think maybe in the mail from this New Life Church who is using Cheers. They're promoting Cheers as the New Life Church. Superintendent Weiner has spent a lot of time looking into it. It is not a church. They were just renting
They're renting
space for
space.
2 hours, much like they could rent Radio Lodge for a couple hours to hold a service. So it is not a church. It's not going to be a church. It's going to stay Cheers. Cheers. So, cheers.
They say they are looking for property in the village in order to try to open up a facility, all right? And they got a dozen, there's 18 properties, wherever it is that they own, that they hold services.
Okay, let's go back to the top. At this time, I will open the floor to public comment. If you'd like to be made a matter of public record, please stand and state your name and address.
I received an oversized postcard in the mail for a new gaming place over by Killy Jewelers. I thought it was a supply store for brew
And, right, this is the problem with the way the state set up video gaming, is that if you have a liquor license, you can have gaming.
I thought we weren't giving out more liquor
We're not.
licenses for these things.
Rainmakers, part of their business plan is to give samples of their products to people to decide which hops or whatever they want to buy to make their beer, or whatever they want to make wine. And we contacted the state, and the state says if there's liquor involved, whether they're giving out samples or selling it, they have to have a liquor license. So in order to allow Rainmakers to follow their business plan, we had to give them a license.
Okay, so then they can do gaming or whatever they want on the inside?
That's the sad part about the way the state has set up video gaming, is that if you have a liquor license, the state believed that if the village gave someone a liquor license, that the village totally vetted these people out and that they are not mafia. That's how the state thought that they would eliminate organized crime in the video gaming industry. And
Yeah, it just seems a little far-reaching.
it is far-reaching.
I would agree, but our hands are kind of tied in that regard. However, they still are subject to the rule we put in the ordinance that says that, what's the
60/40.
60/40, what has to be 60 and what has to be 40?
60 has to be
Non-gaming.
non-gaming of their revenue.
Okay.
And that is being monitored by Treasurer Britton, and there will be one establishment not getting their license renewed come renewal time next year. So far.
Well, that's good.
Okay. Yeah? Okay. Wait, no. Okay. Then I will close the floor to public comment, and move on to trustee business. Trustee Grace.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a number of updates, things that have happened since the agenda was put together. So, first of all, and I would like this, I'm going to report on this again at the board meeting next week. We did get the numbers from the textile drive, and we collected 2,100 pounds of textiles, which I thought was, thank you, Rita. Rita organized this, she found this, brought it to keep Midlothian beautiful, 2,100 pounds of textiles. That day, we had 19 volunteers for a total of 10 volunteer hours. That day, we had 58 cars come through, and we had collected a number of items prior to that. So I think that for our first venture, that was huge, thank you. We're trying to keep aligning ourselves with Keep America Beautiful and all of their functions. And so, weather permitting, we're going to have a plug on Saturday.
What?
A plug. Keep America Beautiful promotes plugging. Plugging is you jog and pick up trash. So if anybody wants to join us, and this is, again, weather permitting, we are plugging for 2 hours. But again, it is going to be weather permitting. The weather hasn't really cooperated in these parts recently, okay?
Right.
So the plaque, and that is all part of the America Recycles Day, which I believe is November 15th. So we have to report what we're doing for all of these events. So now I'll switch off of Keep Midlothian Beautiful and go into a couple things I ran across. So I went to the Chicago Southland Economic Development Quarterly Forum on Friday, and it was good, but probably the best part was that I ran into Sylvia Parham, who works for Cook County Economic Development, and I met her probably 7 years ago. So I took the opportunity to ask her about CDBG demolition money for demos, and I specifically had in mind the Kedzie Avenue property. And I explained to her that it is not owned by the land bank or the village. However, we have a demolition order. So she said they don't have any demolition funding right now, but send her an email, which I did. And I heard back from her today. She sent me all the paperwork, including the application, and she said, get the application completed and submitted to us, and then we will review it and have it in line to see if it would qualify when they receive CDBG demolition money. So I think that might be our best hope to deal with the demolition of that property. And I know Sylvia works for Dominic Tassi at Cook County. So I'm going to read through the documents. I may need, Superintendent Weinert, I may need some information from you. We're going to have to get an estimate as to what it would cost. And I'm going to reach out to Mark Miller in Blue Island. He's got somebody that he said could give us a cost for demolition, but
Demolition in the building or demolition of the building in the parking lot?
I'm going to have to read through the application carefully. I just got it this afternoon.
Different
and
bids. Well, different, demolition of the building, if it was just the building by itself, probably $3 or $4 a square foot. Okay, top of every square foot. And if you're gonna take out the parking lot, want it all ground and removed and everything restored, then for all the pins and stuff, probably $10 a square foot.
And I don't know I haven't even looked at the application, so I don't know if it includes parking lots or it's just buildings. But again, I'm gonna mine through it. And I don't think there's any urgency, but I think it's still important that at some point we at least get it to them, because if they get this money, it would be a way for us to get it taken down and have the CDBG funds paid for it.
The parking lot is two different pins, separate from the building, and we were told that the county bought up the back taxes on those two pins.
Well, actually, the
Who did?
parking lot is 3 pins.
The county bought them?
No, Cook County Land Bank. So there's 3 pins for the parking lot. 1 pin, the one to the south, the taxes were sold at the 2019 scavenger sale, likely to the Cook County Land Bank. And then there's 2 pins for the paved areas to the north of the building. They were purchased by the Cook County Land Bank in 2017. The petition for tax deed has its first hearing on November 20th. So, which will bring me to the next thing that I started to look at after trying to see, I mean, there are towns that have been really successful with the no cash bid, and Mayor, that's what I sent you. I don't know if did you see the email I sent you this afternoon?
I did, and
Okay.
I checked all of my emails and letters. I didn't get anything from Susan Campbell.
Oh, really? Because this came in an envelope, and I got a copy. And I think the clerk got a copy. But anyway, so it's about the no cash bid program. And I started trying to think out, I mean, I'm really troubled by the Kedzie property, because our hands are tied.
Terrible.
So, I started thinking about, would that qualify? And there was a land bank meeting yesterday afternoon that I went to for Don, because he couldn't go. And I talked to Brent Denson, and I asked him, you know, would it be worth our while to pursue the building on the no cash bid? And Brent knows the whole history of that mess over there. And he said, yes, it's probably your only path forward. He said, and it's, these were his exact words, it's like a slow wrecking ball. It'll take you at least 2.5 years.
But if we weren't able to pursue the building through the South Suburban Land Bank.
We
because-
can't, we're done, we're done.
Right, but how are we gonna be able to get it through the no cash bid if the owner is still out there?
So the only way, you wanna,
Yeah, well, it's the taxes. The county knows cash bid. The county's able to take properties that are rearing the taxes and put it up for no cash bid, and that's how it gets it back on the market. It's different.
it's two
So we
entirely
can
different.
do a no cash bid even though the buyer is present and.
The only way,
Okay,
That
I-
takes time, and that's what.
Brent said, it's
Yeah.
a slow wrecking ball.
yeah.
He said the only way the owner then could get that property back is if
To
he
pay the
paid all back
taxes.
taxes.
Right.
We know that's
I-
not gonna happen.
I'm going to go on a limb here and say that it's highly unlikely that the county would put that property up for a no cash bid.
Really? Why is that?
Who is on the county board and who owns the property?
Well, I still think though that is that's, you know, we have to do I think the village has to do what the village has to do to try to do what's right for the village. So
The mayor certainly does definitely have a most valid point on
Yes.
that. But if, I mean, in 2.5 years, it's already been 2.5 years, and the current owner hasn't done anything, even though he's been to court when the land bank was going to try to pursue this building on its behalf through the, what's that process?
abandonment.
Abandonment process. So now we know the building is not abandoned, however, we know that the owner is still not doing anything. He's been to court, and he's been ordered through the court several times to do something, and he's not, so we really have nothing to lose if we try to do the no cash bid thing.
No,
It
you
has
know,
to be offered up for no cash.
Well, I mean,
and it's gonna take some time, and I got the municipal checklist, and they have dates, which I panicked when I saw this, that the first round, they're due either November 8th or November 13th. Well, I found out, that they're gonna have more dates in December, and we would have to pass, the board would have to pass a resolution to get in line with the county to start the process. And then there were 11 pages of things that, you know, have to be done. But, I know Blue Island does no cash bids all the time. Park Forest does no cash bids all the time. And that's how they've perfected this, and they've gotten this over the years. They've been successful. So I just think if we don't do anything, it's just gonna sit there. This is at least an option. And what Brent had told me yesterday as well was, you know, if the Village of Midlothian is successful, then we'll work with the Cook County Land Bank. If you get a developer, then the developer can work with the Cook County Land Bank, picking up the parking lots. But he said, you know, the Cook County Land Bank, they're just picking up pins left and right, but he said he thinks they're at capacity, and they really aren't interested in pursuing this building.
That
why
property is like.
why would they pick up the parking lot pins if they have no interest in picking up the building?
Who knows?
That doesn't make
That
sense.
Cost of
property
demolition.
really is a perfect storm of municipal quirks in terms of the separate pins, the cash, the taxes that are owed on part of it being different from the building, and an owner who's allowed the property to deteriorate without doing anything.
Right.
And allowing it to even get a demolition order. All of those factors put together are not, people who are compelled to do smart things don't allow the situation to develop now.
There was a plan, state has started offering money for solar energy, and there was a plan to put a solar farm on the parking lot. So that's where that was going to head. That's since been dropped.
Nowhere.
but-
Okay.
And I did have the meeting with the owner of the property and our state rep. You're not gonna do anything. So,
So if everybody doesn't have a problem, I'll try to start this process, you know, and I think the expenses will be minimal. We'll have to get a title policy. That was in there, we'll have to get a title policy. And we can't use what Brent's office used, because it can't be any more than 2 months old. But I think it's the only path forward.
Probably is.
Otherwise, it's just gonna sit there again. I mean, nobody's gonna buy that property for the back taxes. Nobody. Okay. So, which leads me, so I've been doing a lot of thinking about doing all these redevelopments, and specifically as it relates to the Village Hall, what we're gonna have to do with Village Hall buildings and complex as we go forward. So I think it's really important that we move forward on the downtown TIF, and maybe we do a second TIF, because I don't know that a downtown TIF would be contiguous to Kedzie. So as I'm just bear with me, as I've been thinking this through, I don't know if it would make sense to have the downtown TIF, or to have one TIF, and have it go all the way east to Kedzie, and then pick up the property, the John's Hot Dogs, the other property that is bank-owned now, that, you know, I've worked with them about property assemblage, but then we've got the public aid building there, so there's not gonna be any property assemblage until the village would get control of that. So, I think it's really important that we move sooner than later on this, because of what the TIF can pay for, especially as it relates to redevelopment of the municipal complex.
That is an excellent plan, and we've been trying to touch base with Bob Richlicki, and unfortunately, we have not connected yet. We've been playing phone tag, so.
But
Still working on the area that we talked about, I gave you the draft report on. Trying to make it contiguous all the way to Kedzie, that's not allowable because of all the
The
residential.
residential, yeah, that's what I
Same thing, we
thought,
can't make it contiguous going to,
to
it
Cicero.
made more sense to go to Cicero as well, but there's too much residential. They only allow a certain percent of residential inside, and it would have to include the lots behind them anyways, so that would include even more residential. So that, but you could do multiple TIFs, that's for sure, but you can't share money between the TIFs.
But I thought that Attorney Valadez said that we can't use TIF money to build municipal property.
Right, but infrastructure.
Infrastructure to it,
You can't,
Well-
it doesn't build anything.
storm, sewer, water.
Well, you can use it for land acquisition, the way the TIF law is written, land acquisition, demolition, architect's fees, remediation, you know, drilling, remediate, so it can be used for a whole host of things.
If
But
the
not-
end- if
but
the
not
end
to build the
result is
structure.
commercial,
Correct, not a village hall
not
No, it can't be
hotel.
used to build a village hall
or a police station.
or a police station.
But it can
or
be
a
used for
public
the
works.
land acquisition.
Not if the end result is commercial.
It can be used, it can be used for
You
land
can buy
acquisition.
land for a municipal
For, yes,
complex.
yes,
You
It's not for
can.
construction. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how we got the water tower spot.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
You can buy the land, just not construction costs.
not construction,
Yeah, the,
it's land acquisition.
Wait, I thought we didn't have to purchase that land, because that land was already part of the,
We purchased it.
was part
We
of
purchased
the
it.
car dealership, and we
Was.
kept
When
it.
We bought the whole car dealership when we
And
sold
then we
everything
sold
but
it.
that section.
Right. That wasn't TIF. The
But who did,
village owned
but
property.
the village bought that property with village money, not with TIF
Right.
money.
Correct.
Yeah,
Not
not
TIF
with
money.
TIF money. You just said you could use TIF money to buy property.
You can.
You can.
Property acquisition.
It can,
Okay, it
the
doesn't make
property
sense
was-
to me, wait, it doesn't make sense to me that you can use TIF funds to buy property you're gonna build a village hall on, but you can't use the money to build the village hall.
You can't build anything with TIF money. It doesn't pay for any building.
it doesn't pay for
But why,
construction.
but, okay, I get that, but.
In any case,
Okay,
commercial or anything.
But why would you be allowed to use TIF money to buy the land that you're gonna build a commercial?
It's TIF, that's what
That's
Ricky
a TIF
Rocket,
law.
Ricky Rockets used it to
No,
buy
but
the
Don,
land.
that's a commercial property, that's commercial. I'm talking
There's
about,
no distinction.
I'm talking about TIF money. You could use TIF money to buy a piece of land to build your village hall on, but you can't use the TIF money to build the village hall.
You can't use TIF money to build anything.
Okay.
Commercial,
But you can use it to buy property.
you can use it to buy property.
And infrastructure.
You can improve the property, you know, with infrastructure, water, sewer.
Well, let's
streets,
not forget
streets.
that redevelopment of this area is gonna be quite difficult because the whole back half of it is in a, not just a floodplain, it's in a floodway. So we would have to,
If the chairman doesn't mind, I'd like to interject at this point in time that there is a TIF class next Wednesday at 5:45 to 6:45 right here.
Nice interjection.
Yes.
Is it 5:45?
Yes,
The water
5:45 to
tower-
6:45.
The land of the water tower was about, was paid from the water bond fund, and a section was cornered off for the water tower, so I don't know. Are you talking about, the lines or something? Do you get tip money or?
TIF money can be used for,
Yeah.
to purchase the land. You're right, we did use bond money to buy the property, but
It can be
we
used
could
for,
have used,
right, to buy the
we
land.
could have used
And it
TIF
could
money
be
to buy
used
the land, but
for-
we needed to buy the property in order to make the TIF make sense, so.
And my whole point here is why we need to move sooner than later is if, you know, again, we've got a lot of ifs out there, but if the public works building need to be demoed, okay, then TIF money, if it's monetized or at the point it is, it could reimburse the village for the demolition costs. So, you know,
Or the TIF should be extended to Clear Boulevard.
well, that's my whole point of these boundaries, is I'm trying to think through for all this redevelopment, and I just think that it needs to be done sooner than later, because
Yes,
the
trustee
village
Kreis,
won't.
we've been working on that, we've been trying to work on that, and we did talk about extending the TIF down to Clare, including the Public Works facility, but Kay McKenna says that is not possible because that's not, that property is residential, so, or, they couldn't make that work, so,
It's not contiguous to that?
right.
Okay.
Yes, we want to make this work. I talked to Trustee Killy like 2 years ago about this whole TIF thing, and we've had meetings, we've had everything, we finally got the draft report, and it was missing all kinds of things, and talked to Mary Thompson probably 3 times, who was gonna give me the map to share with the board, and that never happened, and then Attorney Valdez finally got a hold, and Engineer Nabel got a hold of Rich Licky, and I called him twice, haven't heard anything back from him, so, yes.
Do you think it's possible we want to look for another firm? I'm just saying.
But that
We've
just
already
doesn't-
spent $23,000, plus there's a bill from
Yeah, that's
Robinson
right.
Engineering for engineering work they had to do on this TIF first draft. So, yes, I understand.
I think we need to go back to Mr. Rich Licky and tell him to give us some of our money back,
I
because the
would
work
love
product
to.
he gave us
I would love to have that
sucks.
conversation.
I would agree, and it's just not.
Maybe our lawyer should send them a
Maybe he'll
letter.
be here for the TIF meeting, we can ask him.
There's always a possibility. Yes.
Yeah, it's
That
just
sounds
not,
like Rich Licky, I don't know.
this is not the caliber of their work. I don't know what happened. Okay, so then, again, in the spirit of economic development, we had, Don, you want to jump in on this? Nick's not here. This is about, we had a meeting, the nail school, and I asked Attorney Valadez, we had a meeting with the nail school with Russ Ryden and the potential developer and his attorney. And Superintendent Weinert and Superintendent Sperry, I asked them when we were meeting to come in because we had some questions came up. And Superintendent Sperry said that there's water and sewer mains under the alley there because the original thought was vacate the alley and do one large development between 147th and Pulaski and the nail school. Well, couldn't build on the alley because of the water main and the sewers. So, out of the conversation, it was decided that they could use that. It could be coined a public utility easement. I guess, is that correct?
There would be a public utility easement over it. It doesn't need any special language. It's quite common for this circumstances to occur. Essentially, we would be following the law to vacate an alley. The owner would take possession of it. Within the ordinance, we would reserve a public utility easement.
Okay, that would be it. And then they would use that either for parking or for access to a drive-through. So they wouldn't build on it. So I'm going to forward that information. I'll forward the email to their attorney, and I know Russ was going to work with Brent about trying to incorporate this language into a contract.
Well, can I ask a question? If we're thinking about vacating the alley, is that going to have a drastic or negative impact on the fact that we're trying to turn the Keystone lot into a parking lot?
But
Because we had talked about how, well, first of all, we have to get the stupid guy wire issue all resolved.
Resolved, right.
But in the meantime, would we, well, that's a residential area, so you can't have.
And everybody was gonna
here.
exit to the south anyway.
Are you sure? I thought they were going the other way.
No, I thought they were going out
Uh-uh.
south.
No, I thought they're coming north up the alley and then making a right-hand turn and going east and coming out onto Pulaski.
No, they weren't gonna come out and play. I think they were gonna go south. I have to go look again.
We'll have to double check.
Yeah, let's
because
double check that.
I don't think that was the path of travel they were talking about. So,
When we had that hearing, you might be right.
yeah, Dan and the fire chief were involved in that. Remember, we all stood out there and we talked about the best flow of
Okay.
traffic.
But I thought the neighbors were saying
They want everybody to go south.
that, yeah.
Why would they want them to go south?
No,
No,
because then they
then-
have to go south down the whole block past all those residential homes.
I think the neighbors were concerned that the plan
And the-
had
yeah.
been going that way, and that's why.
Okay, I gotta look
So
at
that's why
that
we have
again.
to look it up. Yeah, we have to check.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the path of travel in the parking lot where the cars were gonna pull in off of
Did you check the
Keystone,
ordinance?
Yeah.
Or do we have, I don't know if we have an ordinance.
they would
on it.
exit to the alley and turn north
Okay.
and then turn east. So that's
Okay.
gonna cause a whole,
Nothing is easy.
Well, I think we could get the minutes from the zoning board, which,
well, and the
Discuss
site-
that.
and the site plan committee meeting minutes may reflect that also, Karen.
Okay. And I think that is all I have this evening.
Can I ask you one quick question? Could you share with us the results of the Rain Ready meeting that you held on October 17th?
There will be minutes. Anna Wolf took the minutes for that meeting. Don was there. We pretty much just, we're gonna try to get back on track and make sure that, what's in the plan is being followed. And I'll get the minutes to everybody when we have the next meeting, which is probably gonna be in January, once they're approved.
I would appreciate it if you guys could schedule the meetings at 3 o'clock or later, because if I'm working, I can't come. And,
The meeting is going to be scheduled to accommodate Anna Wolf's schedule,
well,
unfortunately.
can you ask Anna if she can accommodate a 3 PM meeting? I know that in the past, when I would participate in some of these meetings via phone from work, you would have them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Because I would take a late lunch so that I could be on the call.
I will ask her, but she's critical to this.
Well,
so-
I understand that, but you know what? Some of us on the board are critical to this as well, because we are just as involved and we're pushing the Rain Ready plan as much as anybody else. So I would like to be involved in that.
I understand, but when we have somebody from the Center for Neighborhood Technology coming out, again, I really try to accommodate all these people who have given so much to Midlothian.
Karen,
So Kathy,
Really?
I will.
you're saying that to me.
No, but I'm saying, you know what?
I can appreciate Anna Wolf is busy and she's got other clients that she has to deal with, but I would really appreciate it if Anna Wolf could occasionally accommodate some of us who need to be there, who want to be there and want to participate, who also have jobs.
I will ask her, but
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
I will ask the question, and then that is all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. And speaking of the Keystone parking lot, behind Flannery's, it's my fiduciary responsibility to let the board know that the offer is still on the table from Tom Walsh to build a parking lot there free of charge on their dime. They would take care of all the engineering and all that stuff that we're going to be going through here for a while. So
Well,
my responsibility to let you guys know that.
thank you.
Would
And
you be
then-
interested in Midwest property?
I've heard that conversation, concerned about how they would flow. It'd have to be from the alley, but
With regards to the
James,
Keystone,
I'm ready to sell, so.
with regards to the Keystone lot, you know, this whole guy wire issue is throwing a big monkey wrench into this project. And, you know, in the same fashion that MWRD employs their cost benefit analysis on all the projects they do, i.e. our own Natalie Creek project, when their engineers first were looking at this and doing their initial assessment, they came up with cost estimates for a 25-year flood fix, a 50-year, 100-year. And the cost-benefit analysis came back that they were willing to go 25-year, and that's how we got the $8 million fix instead of the $25 million fix. So I think that it's in the village's best interest that maybe we take a step back and do the same thing with this Keystone lot. The grant that MWRD has so graciously offered to us is only, it's not even a 50% grant. And the village is going to be on the hook for all of the expenses, including if we have to move this guy wire and move this pole, that's going to be several $1,000s. We have to put up a fence, we have to, install the parking lot, we still have to do green infrastructure. Plus, what's not included in any of this is fixing the alley and then fixing the edges of both alleys, much like how we had to fix around the edge of the new permeable parking lot next door. So it's getting to the point, I think, where this parking lot is going to be prohibitive from a cost perspective because to me, it's not reasonable to spend over $100,000 on a parking lot that's only going to result in 11 parking spaces.
Well, I think we've got to wait and see what happens with the guy wire before the board will make a decision.
Well, but even before that, Karen, before we can even make a decision, we really need to have a cost estimate of what this whole thing is going to cost.
And we're not going to know until we put it back out to bid, unfortunately. That whole project had to be rebid.
Wait. We have a reasonable estimate of what the parking lot itself would cost. Not the rain garden
Right,
piece,
correct.
but a reasonable idea of what that would cost. I'm sure that between some of the vendors that we use here in town, we could ask somebody to give us an estimate of what the rain garden strip would cost. But we really need, between you and Superintendent Sperry and the engineers and possibly even Robinson Engineering, to sit down and come up with a full comprehensive list of every line item of work that needs to be done there, and then give us a cost estimate. Because I'm sure that there's costs that are going to pop up that we haven't even thought of, just like what happened next door. So, and we really need to have a list of what the proposed expenses for that are going to be before we even get to the point where we can even consider whether or not we're going to approve this or not.
Do we have an engineering estimate from Antero?
Pardon me?
Do we have an engineering estimate from
Well,
Antero?
we had the bids that came back, and the parking lot was right on target. And I don't remember, I don't want to say it because I don't have it in front of me. What threw everything off was the rain garden.
Right.
Because they had to pay prevailing wage, and they bid it the way it was bid as one package. So then we went back to the district and they said split it out as two separate items.
But we have to remember that Antero was not hired to be a comprehensive project manager on this. So the bid that we got was for the parking lot and the rain garden only. It doesn't include the privacy fence that we're required to put up. It doesn't require the lighting that we're required to install. It doesn't include a whole lot of other incidental items that are going to need to be completed in order to get this project done 100%.
I don't think there was any lighting. I think it was
There is lighting. Go back and read the site plan review committee's
I'm going to have to
memo.
go back and
Because
read it.
if you remember, Superintendent Weiner came out there with us, the site plan review committee got involved because this is a parking lot in a residential area, so the village was required to be the applicant for the special use.
I remember.
And Superintendent Weiner came out there, and we inspected the property, and he was telling us that because it's a parking lot, it requires lighting. And Joe said there was a ComEd pole here, a ComEd pole there, or a village pole that we could put lights on. We're required to put lighting up because it's a parking lot.
But I think, if my memory serves me correct, there was enough light being illuminated from the pole now
No.
that we weren't going to require any additional lighting.
Okay,
We
well,
need
we
to
have
add
to talk
lighting,
about that.
Karen. I specifically remember we have to add lighting. That's why we need to have somebody look at this. We need to come up with a comprehensive list of all the work that needs to be done so that we can get at least a rough estimate of what it's going to cost.
I think that's an excellent idea, trustee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move on. You done?
I'm done.
Trustee Act, you done?
TIF meeting, next Wednesday,
All right, excellent.
5:45. I don't know, did you want to bring up the open house to talk about it a little bit, or how it went?
think it was fantastic. I think it was exceeded expectations. Every department did a fantastic job with all of their, the thing we had, the class guys had. No, it wasn't martial arts. Self-defense was fantastic, and our department, Public Works, above and beyond. You guys are outstanding. I had about 30 people come to the mayor's office.
The video was good too. The video?
I was going to bring that up, that the technology committee
Yes.
was excellent.
Myself, I couldn't make it, but it was very
Turned out
enlightening to
very well.
see.
So, very happy. We'll do it again. They got a lot of good feedback the next day at the Rain Guard for the Scarecrow Fest. We'll do it again.
Okay. I want to just mention the Festival of Trees is going to be starting. The cost of the trees has gone up a little bit for the vendor, so we're looking into ideas of trying to finance some of those trees. And we'll be discussing at the next beautification meeting on how we could assist with that in order to have the same, yes, sir.
Okay, so the issue is that the 20 trees he donates have gone, he's costing him $200 more. So, you know, first of all, he's going to donate, he's basically donating them about the same time as the meeting. So I would ask that the board consider it, and if they would like to subsidize the donation. He's donated 20 trees to us for how many years?
Long time.
Lot of years, and I don't know how much that has cost him, but I would think just as a matter of courtesy and appreciation for his donation, that the board should consider donating the extra $200 that it costs him.
I think that would be absolutely fine.
Okay. So I will bring it up to the committee and see if that's the route they want to go, with having the village
At the next
donate
board
to him.
meeting, next week, we're going to put it on the agenda for approval?
The $200?
Yes.
Yeah.
I could probably approve that because it's under my $250.
And the beautification committee has budgets.
Yes, so I would want to talk to them in case they wanted to do a fundraising.
Comes out of who?
I'm just saying,
It's not beautification's budget. It's a village expense.
Okay.
it all comes out of the same account.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Historical tradition, you can take it out of Historical Society's budget.
Thank you, trustee Gillis.
Thank you for your input. That includes everything I needed to say today.
Can I ask another crazy question? How's the ratings application doing?
Oh, the book?
Yes,
That's doing well.
how soon?
What are you referring to?
14th, the
It's a ratings book.
development, yeah.
The ratings book that gets sent to the market that rate us to see what kind of rates we'll follow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
For the
so
bonds, for the bonds.
pretty much everything's set up. We're just cleaning up I believe, the text and stuff, and the nature of it.
So, how soon?
Sometime before the 14th.
Sometime before this next board meeting?
Before the 14th. I'm not going to bring the rating book to the committee.
Before the next, 14th is,
Next Thursday.
okay. Next Thursday, which is, I'm missing this.
Missing.
Was Thursday,
That's the date that, the targeted date
has to
that
be
we're looking.
submitted?
Yes, that we
Okay.
want it, that we want to have it finished by, yes.
Okay, all right. We're running close to our, the worst scenario would be that what's happening in Washington, on Thanksgiving, which the Democrats have targeted, the impeachment vote for our president would happen around Thanksgiving. If that did happen, I don't know what would happen to interest rates. So, a little nervous here. I don't know. You know what? Business likes President Trump. If there was some trepidation about him losing his job, interest rates could fluctuate. We don't want them to fluctuate. We want to get this thing done. I mean, I don't know why the ratings book couldn't have been done before.
It's on schedule as we planned it, sir. So, we're following the plan. That's, what else would I would do? Something different?
Okay?
So,
Anything else, sir?
now I'm done.
Okay, trustee Gillis?
Okay, I have a few things, so hopefully you can bear with me. I know normally I don't take up a lot of time, but I'm going to ask more than 2 minutes. The first thing I want to bring up, and I'm not sure that the board is aware of this, but back in 1999, the Springfield School reunion had, to hindsight, put a time capsule together that was to be open in the year 2020. The graduating class of Springfield for that year, which will be coming up this spring, will be opening a time capsule that this reunion put together. It has been in the Historical Society since 1999. I wanted to bring up some names of the people on the committee that generated this time capsule. Bev Beatty, Dale Stoffren, Clyde Blanky, I believe one name was, and Ron Hack. These individuals were seniors in 1999. I doubt very much that they are still with us today, but if anybody happens to know any family members of those names, some of them have been around Midlothian for quite a while, so hopefully we can pull somebody in to be involved when they open a time capsule at Springfield School when they have their graduation class to do that. Hopefully the board can be there too. It's a pretty neat thing. I know so many items they listed at the Historical Society, the list of teachers from that year, a letter from the principal, a piece of the old gym floor, some memorabilia from the reunion that year, a bunch of stuff. But if you go into the Historical Society, it's at the first cabinet when you walk in, there's a tube. When they open it, they're going to saw off the ends. It's pretty neat. I don't know if the board's aware, but we also have a capsule right out here in front of the village too. I don't think any of us will be around when we open that, but maybe we'll have family members that can, share in it. But I would
You
like.
got a date, time, and everything yet, or?
No,
Okay.
I'm just bringing it up now because I'd like to get these families involved to do it. We'll be sending a letter to the principal of Springfield just to refresh their memory because, it's been sitting there for 20 years and it hasn't been talked about much. So it is pretty neat. So that will be coming up. Once we get the date, we can share that. But the biggest thing I want to do is just bring up those names and hopefully we can get some family members looking for anybody that would like to come once we get the date established. With that, one of the other things the Historical Society is going to do, I know that we at the last minute decided to include the Historical Society with the open house, and I don't think we had the response that we were looking for. So to sort of promote the Historical Society this year, we're going to start by doing some handouts. Normally, I bring the messenger in the papers that are out front, some copies back here. Next week, what I'd like to do is start from scratch, bringing articles from the Historical Society and leaving a pile. The first one will be about the railroad that ran through the country club. That opening before we were around, the village meeting, 1898, well, the train track, which was 1.25 miles long, ran from 1901 to 1928, and once the automobile came around, it sort of knocked that out. But it was mainly used for employees coming from downtown that needed to go that 1.25 miles from the train station to the country club. But there's some really neat pictures in the handout, so that's going to be one of the things we're going to be doing. I'd like to be able to bring handouts for every board meeting to have residents come and see it, sort of get more of the historical facts, and I didn't want to rain on the country club's parade, but I sort of came up with the idea utilizing the train in the country club, before we were incorporated. Excuse me. So that's an idea I had. With that, for November, December, I also was going through some of the items we've had at the Historical Society that have been sitting in bulk for quite a few years. At one time, we sold Christmas ornaments here in the village back in the 70s. They were like $9.95 a piece. Well, we have a few left that have just been sitting in a box not being used. So what I would like to do is raffle 2 off in November board meeting and 2 off. Each board meetings. So anybody that comes in that would like one, I'll bring some tickets. We can just do it. It'll take a minute, maybe before we end with public comment. If anybody's here that, maybe is getting sworn in, the more the merrier, I feel. Just the fact that it'd be nice to see you on trees instead of sitting in a storage box.
Is this going to be a free raffle, or are we
Yes,
going to
free
generate
raffle.
some money?
No, we're
No?
not going to generate.
Because I would
nothing.
pay for the raffle tickets.
No, I just want to get them out there. So they're pretty neat ornaments, some of historical nature about the Historical Society, others are with the village. So that's something I'd like to do. I will supply the tickets and the ornaments here. We can just give 2 away for each meeting. If there's any ideas that people have that they'd like to see brought out from the Historical Society here for a quick reference or handouts, let me know. With that, the other thing I want to bring up is that one of the neat things that we don't promote at the Historical Society, because we just don't have the people that come in there to utilize it, is the historical interviews that we have on tapes. It's one of the most fascinating articles we have in the Historical Society, because these are people that back in the 80s and 90s, when these historical interviews were developed, they were quite lengthy, hours. And some of the information, people like, Mrs. Mary Hart, whose father was a mayor, Mrs. Mary Hartman, her father was a past mayor of Midlothian, Mr. Hart, or Mr. White. Mr. McLean, some of the, I know Ellen's father was interviewed. There's quite a few individuals that have so much history that we're going to try and bring that back. Helmut has graciously said he would be available to do the filming. We have an interview sheet that basically is just, if you would like to be part of that, we're looking for anybody that has any historical information that they would like to share. They don't need to be seniors, and they're, someone, I'm just going to use my father as an example, who's been around here for a while. Maybe it's a family member who has gathered information from a grandfather, a grandmother, or aunt and uncle who's lived here for quite a while. This is information we need to document and sort of pass along. One day that may be us sitting in that interview chair, talking about village things, but we're going to try doing this after the holidays, but I'm going to leave a stack of interview forms on my desk. If somebody does come in, does see this meeting, committee meeting information, and they are interested, they can come to Village Hall, take a form, fill it out, and just leave it back on my desk or in my mailbox. That would be great. And then we'll set up a time on a Saturday. Hopefully it would be a Saturday that we're open, or even an off Saturday if it's convenient for the individual. So these are some of the things we're going to try and do to really promote, but I'm really excited about the time capsule being open, and hopefully it'll be a pretty neat thing to see what was in that. My most interesting thing is to see what the gym floor looked like, back when they replaced it. So that's that with the historical information. I do have a sheet for the fire department, a part-time position I'd like to fill. Mayor, if you could sign that, and I'll make sure the chief gets his signature on that, please. Couple other things I'd like to bring up. We had talked about the church on Lawndale. Talking to Chief Hotwagner, there's an issue with the cost factor of sprinkling that building. I know that's going to be something that, we do have that waiver possibility. So I just want the board to be aware that I think that's going to be something that's brought up. I believe right now just a classroom has a fire system in it.
I believe that one half of the building has a fire alarm system, and it would be the west half of the building, and that's where all the classrooms
Right.
are. The other half of the building, the east half of the building where the sanctuary is, it's a sanctuary, and underneath the sanctuary in the lower level is where their kitchen is, and like a big cafeteria,
Right.
meeting space, eating area. That has no fire alarm system in
Right.
it. So
And I know they wanted to do a build-out for offices and stuff, so there's gonna be a issue with the sprinkler system right off the bat. So, you know, that waiver issue is gonna come out to play. Again, please be aware of it. But talking about the sprinkler system, again, my discussion with Chief Hotwagner, he would like to see us change our sprinkler ordinance. Instead of using a seating like we have in the past where 40 or more require, he would like to go to a square footage. We're one of the very rare communities that use a seating because we run into the problems where, I won't use the name of a restaurant, but when they initially applied for it, they didn't have more than 40. A couple months later, Restaurant A, Restaurant B, all of a sudden had 60, 70, 80 seats in there. And there was no way to change it. They're open, you know, you tell them, you gotta take seats out there. If they end up back in. You know, it's just a cluster. So if we went to a square footage, in one example he used, you know, thinking about it, 3,500 square feet would be a good number to use that as a basis to go on for whether it is or not. Obviously, that waiver issue still would be something that can be brought up to the board or to a special use, but yes.
Doesn't the ordinance already include a 5,000 square foot
does.
threshold?
Yeah,
I
but there
thought-
is seating that involves in it too.
No. So you're just saying get rid of the,
Seating,
but,
yes.
but for a restaurant, they're still required to have a sprinkler system regardless, right? Because they have a kitchen and they're cooking? I thought all restaurants had to have a sprinkler system. No? If it's under so many square feet, they don't have to? Like I know the Old Brown's Chicken. They have a fire
Well, I mean,
alarm, but
there's-
they don't have a sprinkler system because it's under 40
There's
seats.
two Mexican restaurants in town right now that don't have sprinkler systems.
Okay.
But even the nail school, my recollection is because it exceeded the square footage, if somebody was
Right,
gonna
but these
redevelop
restaurants
that.
don't exceed that square footage.
Okay.
But if they exceed the seating, they would have to. So that's where the seating comes in.
Okay.
The restaurants that I'm talking about, and I think everybody knows which ones I'm
Yes.
talking about, they had less than 40 seats when they first opened. And then miraculously, they now have more than 40. Yeah, and they still have more than 40, and they do not have a sprinkler system. So they're in violation of our ordinance, so what do? Shut them down, close the restaurants? You know, we asked them to take a...
I say yes.
Okay.
Shut 'em
well,
down.
I say no, let's look at the ordinance and be more user-friendly. If it's a square footage thing, it's a square footage thing. If their square footage doesn't exceed 3,500 square feet, then let's look at the ordinance, because that is probably like a standard that some of the restaurant industries have used. The footage or the seating, it shouldn't really be an issue, because there is no way to police that.
Right.
That's gonna change day to day, week to week. You know, but if we went,
So the suggestion is if we changed it, we would eliminate the seating requirement, and if you're over 3,500 square feet, you have to have a sprinkler system. If you're under 3,500, you don't have to have a sprinkler system.
correct.
Everyone still has to have a fire alarm system, I get
Correct.
that. Okay, so, but then how would that apply to restaurants as well? Doesn't matter if you're a commercial space or a restaurant space?
Well, I think it's, right now, we're more concerned of the restaurant space, because that's where we're having more of a higher number of public assembly.
Would they still be required to have some sort of fire suppression system in the kitchen because of, that's where all the cooking's
Well,
happening?
normally they do, they have their hoods for their,
They
you
have
know,
the answer system, right.
Right. You know, or they have pull station.
Well, that's what I mean, so
Yeah.
we
Well,
would make
I'm
them
bringing
have.
this up for discussion.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
but
so we
have
would
an
make
issue
them,
we need to
so we would
correct.
make them have a fire suppression system in the kitchen cooking area, but they wouldn't necessarily have to have a sprinkler system in the dining area.
Correct,
Okay,
okay,
all right.
yes. So it's something to think about. I'll have more information on it as we go, but I just would like to plant that seed, because it's been sitting there and we haven't really taken care of this problem.
And I agree, it has been an issue, because trying to chase down some of these restaurants, I mean, you know, I think of the meat market.
Yep.
Every time I go into some place and there's, especially into an older building, and there's no
Right.
sprinkler system.
And
You know, I mean, thank God nobody was injured and it happened overnight, but, you know, what happens if you're in a restaurant and there is a fire?
Right. You know, and the big thing is, we're changing hands on buildings, we're required to make them abide by ordinance, but if we make it somewhat more susceptible to being friendly for specific areas, it's gonna help. It's not gonna say, well, you close your business. We don't want that, obviously. We want, and we can still protect the areas that need protecting, but be more user-friendly when it comes to square footage of a dining area. So, something to think about, you know, I'm not asking that we discuss it any further, I just wanted to plant that seed so that we're aware of that.
I'm totally up for the discussion, so.
With that, the next item I have is, again, bringing up just information to discuss. One of the biggest issues we've had in the fire department since we've gone the route of transporting is doing our fire inspections in our businesses. Normally, it's been our practice to do them twice a year. We're having problems getting them done once a year, every single one. You know, we're running a whole lot more calls. The calls take a lot more time. The guys are out of the station completely different than it was 10 years ago. You know, back you used to say, well, they were paid to wait. Well, there isn't any waiting anymore. Their day is very busy. Most of it is EMS calls, BLS, ALS. We run quite a few more than we have in the past is one thing, but now that we're transporting, that call that took 15 or 20 minutes or a half hour, now it's taking hours to transport, go to the hospital, restock supplies, get back, and put your ambulance back in service. We don't have a big department. We're very minute as far as when we have individuals on staff. Our Station 2 crew has been getting smaller and smaller. One of the ideas that Chief Hatwater came across that he wanted me to share with the board tonight was the possibility of hiring a building inspector, a fire inspector, to do fire inspections. This is very common practice for every community around us. We are one of the few, if not the one, you know, on every side of our community, every single one has either a full-time or part-time fire inspector. The chief has money in the budget still from the part-time salaries that he hasn't used to subsidize this position. He would like to basically take the, I believe it would be the requirements that, what is it, ISG and NFPA or National Fire System uses, and take those trainings, whether it's the certification for building and the certification for fire inspector. There are individuals out there that have these two certifications, and look for people. Most of them are retired firefighters that used to work in the Fire Prevention Bureau. Right now, the Fire Prevention Bureau cannot keep up with what they're required to do. And it's become a very important problem. We don't want to neglect not inspecting, especially the old areas of town that are susceptible to faulty wirings, you know, issues. Obviously, you know, we've had issues in the past, whether it be the motors being worked out at grills, you know, different things like that pop up, but there's things out there that we may not be seeing. And I'm not saying that they're neglecting them, they don't have the time to do it. And by utilizing this personnel to do it would help the village immensely. So again, this is an idea he'd like to see happen. I'm going to talk to him. I know that he did some research on the pay range. Whether full-time or part-time, the pay range is basically between $21 and $29 an hour. On an average, it's like $25 an hour to pay these inspectors. They're dual certifications, and, you know, they would work hand in hand with the building department. That's the idea, using the new software, you know, becoming familiar with that. And the inspection fees, which I believe we passed an ordinance a while back to charge for these inspections, we haven't done that.
Right.
So we're neglecting that generation of, or generate fees to do that, but that can be billed right through the building department. So this individual would work
So
hand
it
in
wouldn't
hand.
necessarily be a budget drain on the village because there would be a fee that would offset
Right.
the salary.
It would pay for itself.
Yeah.
Correct.
And this-
We're just not utilizing.
We don't even fire inspect multifamily
No,
property
no.
buildings.
They get inspected, like businesses get a fire inspection when
They open.
first go around when they open, but upon renewal, they don't get
Right.
inspected and,
Most departments do what's called the occupancy certification inspection. So the fire inspector would go with the building department, they would inspect a business, you would get your building license, that's one thing, but you would need to get the occupancy certification through the fire department. That is what they pay for to get. Without that, you're not gonna get your business license. So a village like Alsop uses it, they have a high industrial area, so they have to go through, in any of their commercial areas, every single one has to have both certifications or both certificates, the business license and the occupancy permit to be able to open, And they charge anywhere from $25 to $50 to have that piece of paper, but it's a necessity. That's why you're covering both entities, the fire inspection part of it and the building inspection code part. Instead of just relying on our inspectors to do the building code and we're neglecting the fire code, this is a way of getting them both done together. So again, it's something that the chief would like to see happen. I think it would help cover the bases on things that we're neglecting.
and Jared, this person would not be like on a firefighter schedule, they would be like Monday through Friday,
Correct.
9 to 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, these are, they would work through the Fire Prevention Bureau. There's a separate desk in the fire department that's used for all the records for inspections and stuff, so, he has space to work out of that desk there to do that, but, yes. But it would work hand in hand, with new businesses coming in, they'd have to have that occupancy certificate to go to the next step of getting their business license. So, again, it's something that I think that would enhance the services that we can provide for our commercial district, so. With that, the last thing I wanted to talk about, I shouldn't say the last, and one of the other things that he talked about too, and just to piggyback on this, was the fact that with that, we could also cover an area that we've neglected, and that's apartment commonplace inspections that we don't do. The stairways, sure, we know there's smoke detectors there that they have, but with that, we can even go a step further. The chief would like to see like a five-year plan to incorporate panels in these areas where we would have strobes, we would have wired smoke detectors, things that we're missing because these are dangerous places. Some of these apartment buildings that we have in town are never going to go away. They're going to be here. But they're not getting better, they're getting worse. There's common areas that, the building department can inspect, but again, the fire code aspect is we're missing it. So this is something that we can add into that by putting a ordinance together and have it incorporated within a 5-year plan to have panels put in these common areas so that these residents are safe when they're renting apartments in our village. So that's something I just wanted to bring up. Lastly, and I'm going to apologize for sort of being anal about this, but the meetings that I've missed, I've seen, we've talked about some of the things that we've needed, with the rezoning TIFs, possibility of looking for a place to possibly put a new police station, taking care of the hazard we have at the Public Works. But one of the biggest things I think we have to still stay focused on, and I'm not saying we're not, I'm just emphasizing the need that where we're sitting right now is probably one of the biggest hazards that we're opening up to our employees. This whole area with this roof problem here that we brought up, but we really haven't come up with a game plan to fix this issue. We have millions of dollars of equipment and rigs and, turnout gear and individuals that work in that department, in the fire department, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. They don't leave that place. Other departments do. They go home on different shifts. whether it's 12 hours or 8 hours, they're done. These guys, men and women, stay here 24 hours a day and never leave. They're sitting under this bubble that water keeps coming in, going under this roof material, and we don't seem to have a game plan on fixing that. You know, I understand that we have a police department issue, we have a public works issue, we also have a fire department issue, guys. I mean, if you look at the history of this fire department, it was one of the big reasons why we organized. You know, we had a police department that our police magistrate came from his home. Our calls went to someplace in Homewood back when the village was forced to corporate. We still had a fire department. We had a fire department in the Village Greens before it went to Christ Brothers. We used to have it over on Abbotsford, just northeast of the train station. There was a little shack back there. The one on the Lions Club burned down to the ground, you know, when they left something on the stove in a firehouse in the 40s. But the thing is, they progressed. We progressed. When we built this village and the police and firemen came back and put that wall together that fell down a couple years ago. That wasn't a contractor that did it. That was Mr. Ward and firemen and policemen who went out there and were masonaries and put that wall up. They weren't contractors. There was no code to follow. They just did it. The fire department's been sitting in this building since the 40s, you know, when it opened up, and then the addition since the 50s. We've never invested on moving past it. Those areas I talked about where we've progressed to a bigger fire area that we went to, where it ended up being a Christ Brothers garage, and then here. You know, that was in the 60s. In the 70s, when they went full-time, we had 15 guys here that worked 24 hours a day in the 70s, 80s, 90s, now 2000. They're still in the same dwelling, a kitchen that's probably smaller than most of our bathrooms at home, that these guys work in 24 hours a day. Bathrooms that we don't have facilities for men and women. We just had a testing that's going to be done, and hopefully a list is going to come out at the end of December. There's females that tested that are probably a good chance one of them may end up on that test. We don't have no sleeping quarters that isolate a female away from men. That has to happen. I mean, we have a bunk room that has no ventilation. I'm not going to keep on going on and preach, but what I'm asking is that we don't try and just isolate different departments. We have to stay focused on the big picture here, because our employees see that. These guys and women stay in this department, like I said, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You know, there's always somebody in this building. And that structure that's been their main hub has been outdated and put to use more than it should have been. So there hasn't been a talk about, you know, instead of doing A and B and leaving C and D alone, why don't we just concentrate more on just the whole big picture and make that an emphasis instead of just, you know, individual departments here.
Jerry?
But the big thing is this roof we have to have. And Don, I see you did this, like you have an update or something, but I mean, since I've missed some of these meetings, there has been none one talk about what we're gonna do about the roof. And
Jerry, I think that what we need to do is keep moving forward and come up with a plan and do an RFQ to replace this structure. Fixing the roof is not gonna fix the problem. It's gonna cost, I can guarantee you, once they peel that roof back, I don't care what that roofing contractor told us a couple months ago,
yes,
couple
we're talking millions.
$100,000 to fix.
Right.
Once they peel that roof back, you're opening up Pandora's box, and I can guarantee you it's gonna cost double or triple to fix the roof based on the quote that the proposed numbers that he provided us. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
I don't wanna throw good money after bad.
That's why I'm talking about, let's look beyond it.
And I agree with
Back in
you.
'48, when they opened this village hall, they had the hindsight of doing that. I mean, we were one of the last to get a village hall. I mean, if you look at the history, I mean, Mr. Shedd wanted to put it up at 145th and Pulaski. It was a great building, 2 stories back then. This was built to have a second story on. We've never progressed past that. You know, we're one of, if not the oldest fire station in the whole Southland, if not the south suburbs. You know, back when it was built. We're in the same place. You go to any village, any municipal building, anywhere, whether it's Posen, whether it's Crestwood, Markham, Oak Forest, any of our neighboring communities, they all have new buildings. You know, sure, we wanted to keep things low and great, but we neglected long enough. Our employees are taking a hit on it now. We're putting in harm's way. And I'm not just talking about the roof possibly ready to come down when we don't know it, because we have no idea. You know, like I said, we had millions of dollars invested in that little tiny structure, in these rigs, equipment, and personnel. And I think that's the bigger picture we have to look at. And I say this because, yes, we do have 12-hour shifts where our patrol officers in the police department, they're on the streets. There's people in the building, yes, during the day. On the weekends, they're not here. They're out on the streets. You have to buzz or call. We don't have people run. We don't have radio operators in the building like we used to. In the village hall, we're closed on holidays. We're closed after 5 p.m., half a days on Saturday. So that confined area for these people are minimized compared to what these individuals are seeing on an hour-to-hour basis every day of the year. So I just wanted to emphasize on that, because I think that's where we're missing the big picture of, you know, looking to replace this whole building. We need to be the board that steps up and does what other board members in the past haven't done.
I agree with you 100%. And Trustee Crowley and I have been on a mission for the last 2 years to get the ball rolling, to get this happening. And so, you know, we're finally refinancing 2 bonds, and the savings that will be generated from refinancing those 2 bonds will pay for the principal and interest payments for the new bonds to build a new police station and the new public works. I would like to move forward. I had asked this question a month ago when we were going through the Public Works RFQ, if we could start the RFQ process on the Village Hall. And I was told, well, let's just get through the Public Works RFQ first. Public Works RFQ is done. We need to start moving forward right now and doing an RFQ for this building.
Who's going to do that?
I'll do it.
Maybe we can look
Why
to
are you
the
shaking your
outside.
head, Don?
I mean, we're not specialists on doing RFQs. Maybe there's residents out there that could help. Why don't we try to maybe form a
Chief
committee?
Delaney and Trustee Crowley weren't experts on it, but they got it done, and then they took it and gave it to Public Works, and Joe got it done.
Okay, all I'm
We
saying is,
need
and I don't want to get into debate.
I understand, but we need to get the
Yes,
the process of doing the buildings isn't a piece of cake.
I understand that.
That's more than enough for on our plate right now. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't start to look at it, but this is not going to go concurrently, and you're going to have to look at what the cost of this thing is going to be.
Exactly.
You know what
It's
I'm
going to
hearing
be-
from you, Don? I'm hearing more delay.
Here's the thing, I got one public works superintendent, he's going crazy with 1 million projects at one time. Then we sit there and we put, and Chief Delaney, I think, is in the same boat. He's going, well, this building's gonna take up a lot of time. It's, because when you go through that project, you gotta make sure that architect's got every little thing that you want in there and he hasn't missed something. It's a long 6-month process. It isn't something that you can snap your fingers and get it done. There is no way.
Don, we're not saying we're gonna snap our fingers and get it done.
That's surely
Trustee
why
Crowley,
I'm not bringing it up.
2 years ago, we brought this up, and you turned and you looked at Trustee Crowley, and you put the ball in her court. You squarely put the ball in Sandy's
Okay,
court and said, you
going
go
back while I
ahead and
have
get
my
this
time still, I would just
Sorry.
like to end on this.
Sorry, Jerry.
That what we need to do as a board is look at the big picture. I'm not looking for a quick fix to do that. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that it's not just Department A, Department B, that we have to keep the big picture. In fact, look at what we're still sitting under. Look at what our employees
the
are
wall.
sitting under. Right. This has been redone how many times?
I sent you all a photograph last week of the leak that was in Trustee Weinert's office. He had a garbage can half filled with water, right in the middle of his office floor.
What you're saying is we need a plan.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
totally agree with that.
We need a plan, and it can't just be a plan for A and B.
Right. We need a plan.
A big plan
Right,
for A to Z.
right. We need a plan.
We have a building that's 70-some years old.
Right.
You know?
In the
We don't want to
meantime-
be
in
the
the meantime,
antiquated
the
village
meantime,
hall
we
that
have
one
to fix
time
the
was the one that stepped up and wanted to do things that other villages weren't doing. We need to take it beyond that, because we're in stagnant land here, and we've been here for a while. We need to erase that historical spot that we're in and make it more of a modern facility for our
But Don,
employees.
fixing the roof, just so you know, fixing the roof is not going to solve the problem. Fixing the roof doesn't mean that we force our employees and we force our residents to keep this structure for another 10 years.
No, we have to
I,
fix the
I
roof.
brought that up for one reason, because having our department here 24 hours a day, it's their biggest hazard. Our biggest hazard as, keepers of the taxpayers' money is that we have millions of dollars invested beyond this wall, that we have a hazard over that facility that structures and houses these rigs, and we still have to do something about it. I just wanted to refresh our memories, the fact that, you know what, it's out there, let's not ignore it.
Right.
And for all my time that I condensed it, I'm glad I'm done. Thank you.
Your point is very valid, and the village has invested virtually $0 in maintaining its facilities here over the last 20, 30 years. So your point is very valid, and it does have to be a comprehensive plan. There's stages to that plan, and that's what, this current board has started the process of fixing all those things, but it's a plan. It's a long-term plan, but at least we're starting it. Thank you, Trustee Gillis. Trustee Kavanaugh already had her time,
No.
so we'll move.
Oh, no, she did not.
Can we yield to Chief Delaney, so he might,
You don't want to go anywhere.
I do just have one thing I would
Okay,
like
one
to
thing.
mention. With regards, Carl talked earlier about the Christmas and the Christmas trees and so forth. I will again donate the 10 Christmas trees that we always put up at the Rain Ready Community Garden. However, I would like to ask for a budget of about $200 for some supplies that we may need. We may have to replace some of the decorations we've been using, the ornaments and such. They're getting a little faded and tired. So I would like to ask that we put on the agenda, on the consent agenda next week, request for a budget of $250 for the holiday decorations for the Rain Ready Community Garden. And that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Kelly?
can we let Chief Delaney do this first? Since he can go, he's only got a couple things.
He's here for the duration.
Pardon me?
He doesn't leave.
He doesn't leave, he stays for the whole meeting.
Yes, yes.
He's working.
This is a long meeting, I think he should get some consideration, definitely.
I'm here for you, Big
Trustee Kelly?
Just two things, we'll leave the discussion item out, and we need to approve to hire master building services to be the village cleaning service.
Is that a
Would you like
motion?
to make that motion?
No, it's a second.
I'll
Yes.
second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Killy,
Aye.
Trustee Kavani,
Aye.
Trustee Gillis,
All right.
Trustee Ivan,
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor LaRue? Aye.
The second item is discussion of approval to purchase 178 holiday banners from Advertising Flag Company Incorporated, at a cost not to exceed $9,256.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
It's a very, very cost-effective idea, but I don't think it's a good idea. I think decorating the village green and investing some of that money there so people would come to see it and bring some more people to downtown, I think would be better, but, that's just my opinion.
Well, aren't these banners going all the way up and down 147th?
They'll eventually be 147th, Pulaski, and Cicero.
Okay, well,
All the metal poles.
Banners. Okay.
it'll,
It's just my,
they'll be in front of the village green, won't they?
well,
All right, there's a
Okay.
motion and a second.
Trustee Killy,
nay.
Trustee Kreis,
Aye.
Trustee Kavani,
Aye.
Trustee Gillis,
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye. That's all I
Motion
have.
carries.
Under trustee Crowley's business, I'm assuming Chief Delaney or you?
Trustee Crowley asked if I would bring these two items up for discussion.
Unfortunately, you've already had your time tonight.
This is for Trustee Crowley. not for myself.
Duly noted.
I
So
will
no
keep it-
questions afterwards.
I will keep it brief. The first item is purchase of new police cars. These are budgeted items. One will come out of the police department budget, and the other, as we discussed at a finance meeting a few months back, will come out of Metro funds. If there are any questions with regards to Metro funds, we could defer those to Chief Delaney. Does anybody have any questions with regards to this purchase? I'll take that as a no. Okay, let me get back to my other screen here. Okay. The next item on trustee Crowley's agenda is to renew the village's membership with the Police and Fire Commission Association. The village joined this last year, and the subscription is due, and this is also a budgeted item. Is there any discussion or concern or questions with regards to this item?
Just that it is referred to as the Fire and Police Commission.
Did it,
It is the Fire and Police Commission.
well, you'll have to take that up with trustee Crowley because she put it as the Police and Fire Commission.
You would be incorrect.
Okay, so if there are no issues or concerns with these two items, Deputy Clerk Kalaki, could you please add these to the consent agenda for next week? And the only other question, I don't know if Attorney Valadez is going to discuss this. Have we gotten a quote yet from outside counsel to negotiate the Bender-Healy contract on behalf of the village?
Yes, we have, and we're finalizing the terms of that.
Very good.
We're trying to get a lower
Lower rate?
flat rate.
Okay, and I have asked Superintendent Weiner if he and Karina would take a look at that AIA contract and see if, they've got any suggestions or questions that the village can bring up to council and
Absolutely.
to, provide them with some of our, input or questions before they move forward and contact Bender-Healy. And I will also take a look at it myself. And that's all I have. Bender-Healy is... Karina. Remember, she has an architect degree.
She has a legal, law degree?
No, she has an architect degree. The contract that Bender-Healy provided us,
Because I got one.
Bender-Healy
Healy
is the
Bender.
architect. Healy Bender,
Healy
sorry.
Bender.
Healy Bender is the architect. The document they provided us is a standard boilerplate AIA contract that is, it's kind of like a real estate contract. Like when you buy and sell a house, you get a boilerplate real estate board contract. This AIA contract is very similar. Most architect firms use this very same boilerplate contract. So I asked if he would have Karina take a look at it to see if there's anything that jumps out at her that we need to be concerned with, or if there's any items in there that are missing that potentially we need to include.
Are you done, trustee Crowley?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mayor.
Attorney Valadez?
Just very briefly, in light of the late hour, the driveway case with Carol Torborg was refiled against the village and another neighbor. I raised this issue only to explain to the board that obviously our legal cost for litigation is going to be a little bit higher because we've run into a slew of defendants, both from this, the hearing process that we have, as well as the driveway case, that simply will not stop in their pursuit of their due process and pursuit of their cases. I can tell the village that Mr. Murphy and I have repeatedly done the best that we can to get the village out of these ongoing litigation cases in which we're arguing over $100 fines. But unfortunately, there has been a shift, I think, in the common citizens' attitude towards municipal power, and they won't accept a settlement for cases to dismiss the ticket. They want to bring damages against the village. So we will pursue it. I just want to let you know that if you see Mr. Murphy's bill being a little bit higher, we did everything we could to get the village out of these cases, but when we get countersued, we have to fight back. So Mr. Murphy is going to pursue a counterclaim and sanctions for the case with regard to the driveway, because the case has been decided by the judge And the complaint, the new complaint that she filed against the village is not different in any way, so.
Did she file a complaint against the village for the driveway or for the backyard neighbor?
It's the driveway again and backyard.
Both,
Yeah.
the driveway and the backyard?
Yeah,
Well,
yes.
they've both been adjudicated and
Right.
dismissed with prejudice.
Okay.
That's it.
Under my business, everyone, I'm hoping got a copy of the red line version of the final version of the collective bargaining agreement with the Midlothian Professional Firefighters Association Local 3148, and I would like that on the agenda next week for approval. Please put that under my business, not on the consent agenda. Is there any other, you guys got it yesterday when you
Yes.
set it up? You want to take some time, send me any questions, send the attorney any questions? It was an amicable negotiation, I believe. I believe the village got a big part of what they wanted, and I think it's a good agreement, so. Let's see, what else? Let's see, Bremen High School would like to do their annual food drive where they drop off the bags and come back to pick up the food, so anyone have a problem with that? It begins November 11th and goes through the 22nd. Collections will occur from after school door to door, yeah. Collections will occur after school from 2 to 5, Monday through Friday. Village, I'm sorry, they're gonna go door to door. Okay, anybody have a problem with that?
No, don't they do that every year? Don't they like
Usually
drop
drop
off
a
a
bag.
bag on one day, then they
Yeah,
come back a few
the
days
following
later?
week and pick it up.
Pick it up? Okay.
I assume that's what they were doing again this year, but I read it maybe different, or I'm just
Yeah.
really tired. Village map will be used to provide repeat collections. Yeah, it says they're going door to door to collect canned food. They will take place November 11th through 22nd. Collections occur from 2 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and a village map will be used to avoid repeat collections. So that's different. Anyone have a problem with that?
Nope.
Okay, I will, Maria, you'll. I'm running out of time here with the Stag Boosters. They always want me to remind everyone of the things going on at Stag High School. Arts and Crafts Festival, November 16th and 17th. Arts and Crafts booths, vendors booth, lunch and food sampling. So please try to join. The rest I'll say for the board meeting. I believe that's all I got. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Board Constable?
Just a couple things. I put a note on the agenda regarding meetings for the holidays this year. Christmas Eve and New Year's Day both fall on Wednesdays. So I'm seeking the board's thoughts on how we want to handle that. I did have an opportunity to speak with Treasurer Britton today. I know similarly to Thanksgiving, where we usually have a meeting to approve the bills. She suggested that we could approve bills with the committee meeting on December 18th. And with this much notice, we could actually have, department heads or notify vendors that we would not be approving any bills until January 8th, which would mean we would be canceling 2 meetings. I don't think we could have them a day before or a day after, given they're both, I'm sure people don't want to be here on Christmas Eve or on New Year's Eve or on New Year's
Or
Day.
the day after.
Or the day after. So it just doesn't seem reasonable to be able to squeeze one in for something else. So my recommendation would be that we cancel those and proceed with notifying people so that we can approve bills and get things moving, but that's up to the boards.
I'll second that.
I will third it.
I'm in agreement.
Okay, then I will coordinate that with her tomorrow.
Trustee Crowley might want to be here though, so.
I doubt she will, but I will just double check with her before I circle back with Treasurer Britton.
And the meeting for Thanksgiving has to be abbreviated meeting because Karen cooks for 100, how many people?
Well, Alan's got to go, you have to help your mother too,
There's
right?
stuff there too, yeah.
Yeah.
Karen probably has more people she's cooking for.
Can't believe we're talking about the holidays already.
I know. Just a reminder to please submit for your attachments and board docs, please make sure they're in PDF, and if you don't know how to do that, let Maria or myself know, so that we can open them, send sorry about that one. I did not miss it when I reviewed, or I missed it when I reviewed the agenda, but that's why people aren't able to open attachments. And
I just would like the picture to be on the agenda, so if people are watching
Right.
from home or see the
Yep.
video later, they can see it.
I need to figure out, and trustee Ivan can help me with this, how we can project things that are not in a webpage on the screen, so we'll sort that out. And then lastly, also very important and time sensitive, Monday is a legal holiday and the village hall is closed. And Deputy Clerk Lackey is also going to be out of the office Friday and Monday and Tuesday, maybe, Friday and Monday, which means I would appreciate everyone sending your agenda items by tomorrow. The ones that you've given us today will get on the agenda. And I will aim to have it posted on Friday, but I also have a commitment in the late afternoon, so likely by like noon or 1 o'clock on Friday is my goal to have it posted. So we will get everything on hopefully early tomorrow, so you can look and see what the agenda looks like. But just please be advised, we will have to have it posted Friday. And that is all I have.
Thank you, sir. Seeing as there's no further business coming for the board, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the
I'll
motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, meeting adjourned.